some action. Some action. If we want to take our love away from here, we need a living passion to believe in, burning hearts and a brand new feeling. Action. If we're gonna make it like a true survivor, true survivor. Oh, true survivor.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the finale of the Overwatch All-Star Brawl 6 here at Star Esports. It has been an intense month of action leading up to this, and two teams have separated themselves from the rest of the pack so far. Gaia Esports and Andy's Daycare will go head-to-head tonight to determine our champion in a best of 7 grand finals. It all comes down to this. It's a thrill to be here with you guys tonight. I am Shy Guy, and joining me on the cast is Sir Waltham. I mean, tell me, how are you feeling going into this match? Because I know that the nerves and the energy just must be really, really high for these two teams.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can feel it on the desk right here, the energy just pulsing throughout the All-Stars Brawl community here, ready to just get into it. And I don't want to play spoiler, but this is a match we saw a little bit earlier, but the fact that we're taking it to 7 maps as opposed to the normal 5, potentially, it gives something a little bit more. It raises the stakes just even a little bit more on top of the fact that this is finals.
Yeah, it definitely makes it special, and it's special for the entire All-Star Brawl community here, as we have been kind of building up to this moment over the last month, and we want to thank everyone who has been along for the ride, who has followed us here on Twitch, on YouTube, on Twitter, who's joined the Discord. If you haven't yet done that, though, we do want to invite you to join us there. That's where you can find all of the updates on future events that will be held, and just get involved with the tier 3 community that we have been growing here at Star Esports, and we want to thank everyone who has been a part of it as we do head into our finals here. Before we actually get into the action, though, we do have to take a little bit of time to kind of learn about what we might be seeing here tonight, and to help us do that, we are going to be joined now by Weird of Gaia Esports. Weird, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role with the team?
Hello, my name is Weird. I'm the assistant coach of Gaia, and on this team, me and my head coach, we split the role. We split the roles like really evenly. I think on other teams, the assistant coach traditionally will do a lot more micro and like individual stuff, but on this team, we kind of split everything, and I really like how that works. So it's a little bit different from the standard teams.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. As we look into this matchup specifically up against Andy's Daycare, it's one that we have already seen in this tournament. You two met in the upper bracket finals, where Gaia came out on top 3-1. Just overall, what were the takeaways for your team coming out of that match?
Really, it's just up to us to like play our game and not like feel the pressure. And I think that's something we're really feeling confident in going into this match.
Indeed. I mean, that was a game that was really defined in large part by kind of the wrecking ball mirror, which definitely it seems to be the preferred comp for you guys pretty much at all times. How does that change the kind of preparation for you when you anticipate that you're mostly going to kind of be playing in the mirror as opposed to having to prepare for like some counter comps, seeing bunker or rush style comps from the opposite side.
Well, everything can become a little bit more specific, if that makes sense. And you can focus a little bit on the nitty gritty of what each team likes to do with the comp. That being said, we never know what is going to happen this match, and we could see other stuff. So be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your team has now been largely together for quite a while now, at least as far as kind of the tier 3 Overwatch scene goes. You've competed in contenders trials. How do you feel your progress has been over the last couple of months, and really trying to take that next step as a team?
So yeah, we had a really good run in OD, which was like a bunch of months ago, and now like we've been looking to like really take like our like how we play our comps to the next level, because like I feel like we learned this stuff a bit like recently, like we kind of learned it like not too long before OD, and now we've been really like taking it and getting like higher level scrims, and it's been really good.
Absolutely, that's great to hear. I'm gonna let you get away after one more question here. As we head into this match, I want you to tell me two players, one on each team, one for Gaia that I need to keep my eye on, and then one player from Andy's Daycare that kind of has you worried at times, or is someone that you want your players to be marking throughout the match.
For us, I think our backline is really what's so scary about us. Particularly Egg, excellent. And for Andy's Daycare, I'm not really too worried about anyone in specific, but like I think Infected's a very good player, and I have a lot of respect for him. So that's who I would say for that team.
Absolutely, all eyes will be on those two in a big way throughout this series. Thank you, Weird, for joining us. Best of luck with the match, and we will. All right, Waltham. Some great insight there from the assistant coach of Gaia into what we might be able to expect in this series. And I gotta say, I'm really excited coming into this one, because Gaia has kind of elevated themselves as like the team to beat in this tournament. They haven't lost a match so far. They ran all the way through the upper bracket, including that 3-1 win over Andy's Daycare, but everything kind of changes now that we're into this best of 7 format, and even last time the margin was razor thin between these two teams.
Oh yeah, it absolutely was. And one thing you talked about in the interview was that when we saw Gaia versus Andy's Daycare last, it was a lot of that mirror composition, a lot of the diva ball kind of going head to head against one another. And I start to look at these teams, and I really I don't want to say struggle, but I really rack my brain trying to think of like, what Andy's Daycare is going to be doing a little bit different. And I don't mean that in like an insulting way, right? I mean that in a way of, we saw them win their first map against their opponents, but from there, they weren't quite able to maintain that momentum. They weren't able to kind of continue with that. And I don't even want to attribute it just to the fact that they were playing a control map. We saw another control map go on in the matchup a little bit later, and that didn't necessarily go in their favor. So I wonder if it's just an early adapter kind of capability that came through from Gaia, or what the situation was. But either way, I expect Andy's Daycare to be on their toes.
Yeah, for sure. And now they do have the benefit of having played that previous matchup earlier this week. They've had some time to go back, get in the lab, perhaps work up some new strategies, or just even little micro things that could help give them the edge up against a very, very strong opponent here in Gaia, someone who have a lot of confidence coming into a series like this. And I'm incredibly excited to see what kind of adaptations we see from Andy's Daycare, because they opted in that previous to go, like we've mentioned, for the mirror in a lot of cases, where we're seeing that Ball Diva, the Tracer, and Sombra as your kind of primary DPS. But I'm curious if they might take a cue from other teams that we have seen. Specifically, I'm thinking a team like Region earlier on in the bracket, who pushed Gaia to the limit, who took them to 5 maps, and they did it by playing their own way. They did it by playing a lot of Orisa and in different comps, as opposed to kind of this standard ball meta that has really kind of risen to the top here. We've seen that as an option, and I'm curious to see if Andy's Daycare have that in their back pocket, should things maybe start to go awry in this series. Waltham, I'm not sure if you might be muted or if we're just having technical issues, but we will be getting into the map number 1 here in just a moment. It's going to be Watchpoint Gibraltar to start us off in this series. And, to me, when I think about Gibraltar, I'm always going to be thinking about Widowmaker, and I definitely think that we have the players who could really make that pop in a series like this. Someone like Zeus is a player that I have long known as a kind of hit scan demon, and definitely could have some big impact on this first map.
Arriving at Watchpoint Gibraltar. Initiating match.
All
Right.
And sorry about that, Shaka. Thank you for covering for me. This is one of the reasons I love working with you. Always got my back in these situations. But slowly getting my tech issues figured out here, as the pieces always have to be put together one part at a time. Just kind of like how this match is going to go. It's going to go one map at a time, starting with that Watchpoint Gibraltar. And interestingly enough, I got to say, I'm a little bit surprised we're not seeing that immediate dive comp come out from both of these teams just yet. We're seeing Zeus on that Ashe, Zera on that Sim, allowing for those teleports to perhaps move around the map a little bit quicker than you might be anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, already we're seeing a little bit of a different flavor, and it makes sense. Gibraltar is not a map that we saw in that upper bracket final series, so it definitely offers opportunities for Andy's Daycare to try and switch things up a little bit. Exactly what we expect, though, out of Gaia here. This is the comp that I think we're going to be seeing about 90% of the time from this team. But how will they react to this TP play? What can Andy's Daycare do to take some space early on?
Well, as we can see right now, it's going to be Gaia who are posted up on this high ground. They have that Sombra for a little bit of scouting. Crown going to be able to find those isolated targets and potentially get a good early hack on. But so far, right now, Gaia just content to let the cart go through that car wash and get some optimal positioning here. Positioning is really the name of the game on this map.
Yeah, they're playing very far back at the moment, trying to play this one pretty slow as the fight commences up on the high ground. The slam and the collapse there onto Zero from Crown and Astro Nexus. A nice sleep comes in onto Catatrix, but the tanks both there for the peel. Not going to allow Andy's Daycare to get in to capitalize on that play from Andy.
Yeah, and right now, so far, not a whole lot of kills going in either direction, but this is just fine for the defending team. Of course, the more time you spend kind of burning that clock, the more content you're going to be. But the attacking team really wants to get this positioning. We see that Winston continually trying to contest high ground. They're going to do it with a nano.
Indeed, they built that up so quickly. That's a big part of the strategy here for Andy's Daycare, and it does offer them a little bit of control over this high ground. They are able to push Astro Nexus and company away from that blue box position, but now as Clear loses that Diva mech, they've lost a little bit of their peel ability. They have now lost a player entirely, so it becomes much more difficult as they try to move in, but they don't want to give up the positioning that they've gained so far.
Yeah, so far looking very good for the defense. About half this time bank been burned down, and right now it doesn't look like the attackers are necessarily getting the extreme value in terms of those ultimates. But speaking of ultimates, Crown with a big EMP.
Yeah, perfectly positioned there, and the collapse is instant from Gaia. This is the coordination we expect from a team of this caliber, and already things are off to a great start for them here in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, we can already see it. It was pretty much just the one EMP used by Gaia, the defensive team. Crown now at 15% to the next, but everybody already has ults to cope with on the defense. The attacking team a little bit shorter, but they take this fight just a moment too long, and they'll have them.
Indeed, it's going to be the rally early on to try and weather the storm that is this minefield that Haven in the backline with the pulse bomb, able to take down Zeus. That's so much of the damage gone now for Andy's Daycare, and even as Infected tried to move forward with that Primal Rage, is not going to be able to really find anything of value, gets collapsed upon in the underground, and now the fight has scattered. It's taking place on multiple fronts, but in all areas, it's Gaia coming out on top.
Yeah, and Andy's Daycare just looking a little bit too disorganized with those ults. I don't know about Zera throwing out that pulse bomb early on. Hyun trying to give their team perhaps that encouragement, that bolstering to get into this fight. Just can't quite find it. Can this Diva Bomb find anything? It doesn't.
Not quite, but it does force a little bit of a disengage. Clear can't get back to the safety of the team and now has to use a self-destruct of their own just to get the mech back. It's going to be an even fight here as Bob and the Nano Infected try to dive into that circle. Space for Gaia to be able to re-engage. Now Astro Nexus swinging around the payload, trying to just find an opportunity to go in deep. It's a Transcendence out there from Excellent, letting the rest of the team go aggressive, and they are cleaning up all of the kills. Andy's Daycare just getting wiped off the map at the moment. There's no chance of an overtime push here, and they're just going to get stopped cold here on point A of Gibraltar.
Yeah, that is such a hard position to be in right off the bat if you're on Andy's Daycare side of the field. They just give as much as they can. They try on that last fight, but the time bank wasn't in their favor. The ultimates weren't necessarily in their favor. And now things are going to start looking very good for Gaia, who have less than 80 meters to push the cart. That's almost nothing on Gibraltar. It's a tough first point, but not nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and that was about as one-sided of a round of Overwatch as you're really going to see, at least when you're dealing with teams that are on relatively the same level. I mean, Andy's Daycare, they come away with one final blow on that round. That's not where you want to find yourself after you're attacking half on the opening map of the series, but now we're gonna have to see what kind of defense they're able to put up here, and they will be trying to go for Infected on the Orisa to give themselves a little bit more of a stationary backline, something that the entire team can kind of play around.
And this is what I start to wonder here. Infected on this Orisa, it's kind of a risky gambit, isn't it, Shy Guy, where you have that opportunity to, play very bunkered, but if that Orisa goes down, you either swap, you have to try to make the run back with the Orisa, lose all those ults, that ability that you've built up, and if we see Haven continue on this sim, they're just able to get right up onto the shield anyway. See exactly how they play it. I anticipate the swap coming through. It will.
Indeed, just gets them a little bit of positioning out of the out of the gate. Excellent, able to get up to this high ground, have a place to kind of safely poke away at a distance. But Zera gonna be the one to find the opening pick here, doubling the final blows for Andy's Daycare on this map. As they take down Crown, it's a good start, but they're gonna need many more situations like that if they want to be able to hold this.
Yeah, and another thing we have to keep in mind about this Orisa shield is that you cannot have too many people necessarily babysitting that cart, which means that the attacker is going to be able to get a little bit of free movement for it, unless you have somebody constantly dropping down like we see Zira and Clear.
Yeah, and already it's gotten to the point where it's one fight for Gaia. That's all they'll need to be able to take this first map of the series. And we see a lot of pressure going in onto Clear. The Discord orb down onto the D.Va nearly pops them out of the mech, and indeed they will go down as the payload just making its way towards that box of victory. Zira trying to keep this alive, ducking and dodging around on the Tracer, but simply overwhelmed by the numbers of Gaia there.
Yeah, I really want to give a lot of credit to Astro on that wrecking ball, just knocking everybody around inside that small server room, making it so difficult with the pile driver, with the boops from the grappling hook to just get anywhere near the cart. And that's really what we saw. It may have seemed like a C9, but there was a lot of crowd control going on inside this room.
No, indeed, that was a really well played map all around from Gaia Esports, and they take an early lead here. They are looking just as strong as we expected them to be coming into this series, and now it's the kind of momentum is on their side, and Andy's Daycare have to find a way to arrest that, to stop it in its tracks. Otherwise, this series could potentially get out of hand very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're Andy's Daycare, that's not exactly the way you wanted to start your grand finals. You really wanted to kind of, at least put up a really solid first map. If you're on Gaia's side, that's exactly what you want. That is pretty much picture perfect to the book. But I mean, really now Andy's Daycare put themselves in a position where they're gonna have to start, rolling that snowball back in the opposite direction up the hill, because otherwise it's just going to start to be unbearable for them. I'm hopeful that maybe Gibraltar was just a one-off. They didn't necessarily, want that one in their favor. They might have spent time focusing on other maps that we've seen in the past, but that remains to be seen as we look ahead towards our next map, which these teams might be picking here in a minute.
Indeed, it's going to be Nepal here for Andy's Daycare as the map choice. They're going to take us to Control, which is a map type that at least that was the one map type that they were able to take away from Gaia in their previous series. So it's definitely something that they can try and look forward to. I'm going to be very curious to see what kind of comps we see out from Andy's Daycare on this map, because it will largely, I'm sure, be dependent on the sub-map that we wind up going to. I mean, Village, I think, gives them opportunities if they want to go for something a little bit brawlier, break out the Reinhardt for Infected, but Gaia looking very practiced, very polished on these Wrecking Ball comps so far, and I think it is going to make things difficult for Andy's Daycare as they go up against such a practiced opponent.
Yeah, and I think that if you're looking at Nepal, there is the opportunity to really kind of stunt the composition that Gaia is running. I mean, you take a look at Village, right? Village at least used to be very good for running Mei, for running Symmetra, where you could just put those ice walls at either entrance of the point, make it so difficult. As soon as somebody went through the other entrance, you'd have a bunch of Symmetra mini sentries, rather, ready to beam them down, slow them down, catch them out in general. And that's something that a Devo or a Wrecking Ball can't necessarily cope with. They don't have those shields. They don't have necessarily the quick, easy capabilities to destroy those turrets outside of a melee. I mean, the Wrecking Ball is going to take a couple bullets. D.Va might take a couple pellets if they're not within immediate range of her. And that's something that I think Andy's Daycare might be able to manipulate. Now, whether they have the practice to do that, whether they have, anticipated that composition necessarily being a factor, still remains to be seen. But I do hope we see Village come through.
Yeah, it definitely would give us a little bit of a different flavor compared to what we've seen so far and what we saw in the previous series between these two teams. But it does look like it's, in fact, just going to be Shrine to start us off here, which, is exactly what you were hoping for if it's Gaia. Like, this is, of the three maps here on Nepal, I think this is the one that is going to most favor the Wrecking Ball. I do want to point out before we get into this map, we have got a sub coming in for Andy's Daycare. J-Rob is in for Zeus on the DPS side of things. So we'll see what that kind of entails, what that means for Andy's Daycare as we come into this map. It's obviously a planned thing with Nepal, but I'll be very curious to see what he can get done as we try to even things up for Andy's Daycare.
Andy's Daycare certainly going to be going for it. Now, as we look at these compositions, no surprise here. Haven going to be hopping on that sim immediately, coming back out on the Tracer, maybe? There we go. Now we're seeing the swaps onto the Tracer, and just like that, it's actually going to be Andy's Daycare who takes that initial point presence. That's going to be a very dominant position, especially with this Reinhardt. Those tanks are going to have to get a little bit close to really brawl down.
Yeah, but aren't they going to be able to weather the storm? We've got multiple angles to worry about in this situation. It's you've got 3 people coming in from behind with Haven, Astronex, and Crown trying to put some pressure on them. They're poking away, but the first capture does go over to Andy's Daycare, so at least they're getting some percentage on the board at this moment. And as this fight continues to go longer and longer, that's just better and better for them.
Yeah, Andy's Daycare really just holding this position, allowing themselves to build up that free ult charge, but they know the key is not to aggress onto this team. If they start getting rope-a-doped a little bit here, it's going to really start to struggle for them, so they just push onto those weak supports when the opportunity's for them.
That's really well played there. They find the opportunity to use the speed boost from Hewn Lover to really engage on those immobile supports. Capatrix and Excellent don't have easy ways to disengage when you're just getting run down by this Brawl comp, so really well played. They identify their win condition and they execute it flawlessly.
And now as we start to look towards those ultimates, Andy gonna have that garage door, that amplification matrix up and online, and with only the D.Va to matrix any damage, it's gonna be hard to mitigate it in general. Excellent, very close to that Transcendence, but even that's not a reliable way of mitigating all of it.
No, definitely not, but they are approaching the EMP, which is kind of the big chance for Crown to blow this up, and Zera gonna be there first actually on the other side. So both teams just kind of poking and prodding at the moment. No one willing to go in deep, but there's the engage. The ults start flying left and right. EMPs on both sides being used. Excellent going forward with the Transcendence, but the kills have only come through so far for Andy's Daycare. They're committing everything to holding on to this point, and as long as this is taken, this is going to be the last chance for Gaia. If they get wiped here, not going to be much of a chance to take an overtime fight. They'll have Astronex behind enemy lines, able to get there and trigger overtime, but what can a lone Wrecking Ball really do?
This is so unfortunate if you're Gaia. You weather the EMP from Zera. You have your Zenyatta who has that Transcendence still in pocket, doesn't get hit by it, lives through it, uses it, but it's still not enough. That fight just takes a little bit too long, and because of that, Andy's Daycare able to just carry through, weather that storm. An early kill onto the Tracer certainly didn't hurt either.
How's that for a response from Andy's Daycare? They get battered and bruised on map number 1, and then they come out 100-0 Gaia there on Shrine, and now we get to go to Sanctum. It's going to require a little bit of adjustment here from Gaia for the first time in this series, and it does look like we might be seeing that in the form of the Sigma coming out to play.
Ooh, a nice... Nope. It was wishful thinking, Shy Guy, but not going to quite be the same, or not going to be the case. As we can see, those Tracers are both going to be coming out after the Symmetra teleports come online, and I'm really interested to see how Astro plays this Wrecking Ball. There is a little bit of chance for the environmental knockoff, so it's still not out of the realm that Andy's Daycare has to keep their spacing and their positioning in mind.
Oh, but Crown gets caught out there. Didn't have the translocator in a good position. Didn't have it, set down to escape there, and gets run down by Clear on this D.Va. And Gaia now just on the retreat completely. They're having to rotate away from this, clumped up Brawl comp coming out from Andy's Daycare, who now push forward, trying to take the fight to the choke.
And an excellent response coming in from Clear, looking to get that Sombra responded to, but just like that, Gaia striking back hard.
Yeah, Infected knocked off the edge of the map there. Great boot by Fidelum, and Gaia answer back nicely. They're going to get their first percentage on the board here for Nepal, and Hey, this is where things do get a little bit difficult for the Brawl comp. How do you find these engages when the enemy team is going to be so spread out?
Yeah, perhaps a little bit of mismanagement there coming in from Andy's Daycare. They perhaps shouldn't have tried to get that aggressive, especially around such a dangerous area that I was talking about. Those boosts, those knockback effects are going to come into effect, and as long as you just hold point, you're still building up percent. They're now going to have to worry about the recap, but Hugh and Love are almost getting thrown off.
Yeah, that was dangerous. They've got to keep an eye on that, but they're putting pressure on the point, which is what you need to do with this style of composition. They get the retake, but now it does seem like Gaia are starting to pick them apart a little bit here. They get the stun onto Crown. The flashbang is big, and now J-Rob has this Deadeye to try and zone everybody from Gaia away for the time being. And
Ooh.
nice eat there from Clear. J-Rob was a vulnerable target, but the Diva protecting McCree there, allowing some space for Andy's Daycare to keep this fight going.
Oh, and a rough timing of those mines to come out. The Diva Bomb from Clear going to be cleaning everything off. A great response from Andy's Daycare. They got a bit too aggressive, but so far they're toning things down and allowing the equalization to come through.
Yeah, they've just been kiting so well throughout this fight. Hugh and Lover finally going to get cut down, but not before he finds the boop there. And another self-destruct is combined nicely with the EMP. Ensures the kill there onto Infected, but I'm not sure it's quite going to be enough. Zera going mad on this Tracer. Haven trying their best to do the same, but so far it's just Andy's Daycare who've been able to consistently come out on top in these fights.
All right, I gotta talk about it. Hugh and Lover, I'm not sure that beat was necessarily the call. You pretty much had already wiped the board. I get it. Maybe sometimes you just have a hard read of the situation, but either way, if there is one more fight here, you're certainly gonna want to wish you had it. Hydrant goes out just to ensure the J-Rob can clear.
Indeed, and now Fidelum has been isolated from the rest of the team. Are they going to be able to get this kill onto the Diva mech? Indeed, they will. Andy's Daycare just in such a strong position at this moment, and we're seeing fully and clearly why they brought us to Nepal. They have dominated this map from start to finish, and that will do it. They even up our series.
This is such a competitive game in the weirdest way, Shy Guy. We're seeing teams who have very specific map picks and are just dominating those maps. I'm hopeful that what we saw previously, where, Gaia had that, learning ramp, they lost that first map and then kind of came back with a strong vengeance because they, figured out how their opponents played. I'm hoping we see that from Andy's Daycare this time around. I'm hoping we see them just lean into these Brawl comps a little bit better with that Lucio, with the Reinhardt. It worked out really well for them on the control. The question is now, do they maintain that momentum?
Certainly, and now the thing becomes in this series, I think it's going to come down in large part to the map picks that are available to both of these teams. I mean, we don't have our kind of standard map system here for the All-Star Brawl. Like, because we're playing a best of 7, we can't ban maps out of the pool. So I think we're going to be seeing a situation where each of these teams are going to be taking us to maps that really favor them stylistically. We saw it there from Andy's Daycare, but I'm curious to see if they will attempt to kind of force that Brawl into a map where it's maybe not as favorable, because even if you're not on the best map for it, if you can throw Gaia for a loop, you have a real shot at this.
Yeah, and there are so many different maps that, I think work really well for Andy's Daycare, and then there are some that I would anticipate working really well for Gaia. Watch Point Gibraltar, you hear it, you know that Gaia is a dive team, you think it's going to work for them. Andy's Daycare, Nepal worked for him. King's Row is very much in the map pool, and I would love to see Andy's Daycare try to run that Reinhardt option onto that map, really try to find some success with it. Overall, I think it is going to be a little bit of a checkerboard where one team wins their map pick and it goes a little bit back and forth. Whether Andy's Daycare can break that cycle might determine how they win.
Certainly, I mean, and that's kind of the beauty of these best of 7s. it's a tug of war. It's both teams kind of trading blows back and forth, and so far neither of them have been able to kind of string it together. But we still have a long way to go here. I'm just pleased that we are coming in. We're already guaranteed that we're not getting the sweep this time around.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that Andy's Daycare was able to answer back there on Nepal to even things up, and now Gaia are the ones who are left having to kind of return the serve. They have been answered a little bit here, and they will need to make some adjustments going forward.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely well said. And one thing I want to mention, Shy Guy, in all that excitement, I completely neglected the fact that we didn't even take a trip down the village. We just hit Shrine and
Right.
Sanctum, and outside of that, I was happy as a clam just watching these teams brawl it out, or perhaps a little bit more accurately, watching Andy's Daycare, be a little bit more dominant in this map in particular. But overall, the map pick does look like it's gonna be Volskaya coming in from Gaia, and that's a pick I'm kind of excited for both ends.
Yeah, definitely. I think this might be the first time we get to see Andy's Daycare try to go into that mirror match, because Volskaya is definitely going to be a map, in my mind, that favors the Wrecking Ball compositions pretty heavily with how spread out the points can tend to be, especially point A. There's so much room, so many rotations you can make as a team that it will be difficult to try and run something like the Brawl, but we'll just have to see what they have in store for us. As we do get ready to go into map number 3 of the series, I do want to remind everyone at home that we have the MVP poll. Going
yes.
on throughout this series, you at home have a chance to kind of put your stamp on it, or at least give us your seal of approval for one player throughout this series, whoever it is that you think is going above and beyond, carrying their team to victory. We want to hear your opinions on that, so be sure to give us your vote throughout the series tonight, and we will be revealing the MVP at the end of the evening. As so far, I think it's still completely wide open at this point.
Oh yeah, I think that if anything, these last two maps have taught us that it is not definite, absolute in one team's favor quite yet. I mentioned that there was a little bit of a preview match earlier on. I believe it was about a week ago on the 23rd between Gaia and Andy's Daycare. But there are some things that don't necessarily directly translate, like the fact that, as you mentioned, we're not doing bans, as the fact that we're going a little bit longer in those 7 maps. And at what point for both of these teams, I start to wonder, does it become a little bit of an endurance test? Who can maintain that mental a little bit longer? Because especially if we start seeing these maps go to 5, 6, 7, we're gonna might perhaps start to see the fatigue come in for these teams, and maybe those energy levels drop. The teams just get a little less sharp if they're not prepared for it.
I mean, it's not something that they necessarily have to deal with very often. You don't get to play a best of 7 in kind of a tournament format or a competitive situation all that often as a team. I mean, it's not really kind of the standard format. It's something that we break out only for the grand finals. So, it's definitely something that always has to be in the back of your mind for sure. And we'll just have to see if that winds up playing a role in this series whatsoever. For now, though, everybody relatively fresh, everybody raring and ready to go as we get ready for Volskaya. It's going to be fascinating to see what we get out of Andy's Daycare on this map. They're going to be starting out on the attack this time around, and I will be incredibly curious just in terms of what compositions they run. We've seen multiple different looks for them so far throughout this series. Of course, it's been the Brawl that let them get their first map win on the board, but now how will they fare on Gaia's map pick?
It's going to be interesting to see. And one thing that I'd like to mention here, Shy Guy, is J-Rob. We saw them using those Deadeyes to some pretty good effect, both on that Sanctum and on that Shrine map. So I'm curious if they pick that hit scan character once again. Right now, they're hovering the Junkrat. Doesn't speak much to me, since there is that opportunity to change right up until they leave spawn.
Yeah, indeed. I cannot imagine that we're going to be seeing the Junkrat, especially given what we know about Gaia and the comps that they like to run. Junk is not necessarily the best against all of these, hyper mobile heroes that we see on the other side. I wouldn't be surprised to continue seeing the McCree. It's something that has had a lot of power in it. It shuts down these flankers, or at least makes them think in the back of their mind before they go in. One flashbang is all it takes to deal with Haven or Crown, and they've had some success with that so far, and indeed that's exactly what we'll be seeing once again, J-Rob on the McCree.
And J-Rob is going to be going out there, and we see Crown trying to get a little bit antsy, trying to get up into the business of ADC, but they're not quite able to find too much, and right now it looks like they're just operating a little bit too slow. Might get caught out here, as now an immediate push on the point from ADC.
Oh, that's brilliant coordination there from Gaia Esports. We see Astronex roll through on the Wrecking Ball, knocking them off the high ground. It gives the supports, and excellent in particular, a great angle in on to Andy, and now an awkward situation here, because how does the Baptiste get back to the rest of the team?
It'll be a little bit difficult, but Crown going to be using that translocator, just getting themselves away. Now it looks like, Crown running into a rough shot by J-Rob.
Yeah, indeed, and the Sombra out of the fight means that Andy's Daycare ready to roll on to the point to take up this position. And how does Gaia get back into this? They don't really have an easy time of it. Their main tank is off dueling in the backlines with the Tracer, and just now making their way to the point is the rest of the squad. The tanks of Andy's have regained some high ground control. Zero finds Haven with a pulse bomb of all things, and Andy's Daycare, they're just leaving them at point A. They're gonna run straight to B and try and snowball this.
This is an amazing performance from Andy's Daycare. They're just gonna get right on the point. Patatrix has to throw themselves off the map just to get there faster, but man, this is gonna cost them. This is gonna cost this defending team.
Yeah, that's a tick already. Excellent. Now having to come in from the attacker side of the point, drops that Transcendence to try and get into this, and luckily for Gaia, they're able to stop the bleeding before it gets too bad. They give up a single tick, but they've done enough that they'll be able to hold on.
Yeah, and you're very fortunate if you're Gaia there. You don't have to invest too many ultimates. Excellent. Having that Transcendence online perhaps saves that point from what would be an absolutely back-breaking attack phase for Andy's Daycare. But right now, Andy's Daycare still having a few of those ultimates in pocket. They only use that damage amplification, the amplification matrix rather, excuse me, moving forward. So they're going to have a few options to look at. I'm going to be looking for the Diva Bomb to clear things out.
Indeed, it's going to be the Deadeye to start off the EMP in response, but there's a nice sound barrier coming in from Hewn Lover. In response, able to stay out of line of sight of that EMP, and Zero with the Pulse Bomb finds that opening pick. Clear gonna deny the one on the opposite side as well. There's a big bomb coming over the top, buying some space here for Gaia to operate in, and Astronex able to find a pick. They just need to find 1 or 2 kills in each of these fights, and already that's a couple members down for Andy's Daycare. Even as they try to move on to the point, they're struggling to kind of get onto any of these targets.
Yeah, Andy's Daycare had a lot of success when they were just given the point and they didn't have to really walk too much, and then the onus was on the attacking or the defending team to push into them. But now we're not seeing Gaia give them that same level of respect. Right now we're seeing Gaia really just hold that point firmly, take all these nooks and crannies, hide within them, and that makes it so much harder for this team of Andy's Daycare.
Indeed, and they're not really going to have the tools necessarily to make this the greatest of fights coming in here. They'll put some pressure on the point immediately once again, but it's just the Earth Shatter available. J-Rob does find a nice pick onto Haven there, and the Shatter goes down, but Excellence with this Transcendence is giving an opportunity for Gaia to try and move forward, try and find an opportunity here, but nice kiting from Andy's Daycare. There's the EMP, lands onto 4 here of Andy's Daycare as the mines get dropped on point as well. Haven able to come in on the Tracer up on the high ground, putting in quite a bit of work, and Gaia will hold on, but once again they've given up another tick, and slowly but surely Andy's Daycare are finding some value in these fights.
Yeah, Andy's Daycare has put themselves in a great spot. They just need to light the final candle and get that last third. If you're Gaia, you can't keep playing the same way you played these last 2-3 fights where you've just given up that point presence in an attempt to jump any remaining targets. Rob was able to get that first kill onto Haven on that Tracer. Worked out well for them, but will they be able to continue to find those openings?
Dude, that's gonna be the question here. We've got both support ults online for Andy's Daycare. What will they be able to do with that? There's the Amp Matrix. The Fire Strike doesn't quite find anything in that moment, but the tick is getting dangerously close here. As Dylan, the only member of Gaia Esports on the point, the kills are coming through hot and heavy here. There's the pin coming in from Infected, and now the Deadeye zoning everybody away. It's just the supports remaining from Gaia, and there's nothing they can do to stop Andy's Daycare, who may have struck gold with this rush that they are running right now.
That was amazing, Shaq. I was talking about, Gaia needs to not let that happen, but Andy's Daycare, I didn't give them enough credit. They absolutely opened that situation for themselves. They dropped the amplification matrix, and then once that happened, Gaia knew they had to get out of the way. They didn't, and I think it was Haven got immediately one-shot by a McCree or a Fire Strike, taken off the board, and because of that, everybody just rushed onto point. Nobody able to contest from the defensive side without taking a boatload of damage. Excellent performance from ADC. That's really how you use those matrices.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such a brilliant idea when you only have to get one tick. They cannot afford to not be on the point, and when there's an amp matrix there's just not much that you can realistically do in that moment. Defense matrix is only going to last so long in that situation, and now Andy's Daycare are sitting pretty here on Volskaya. They finish with over a minute remaining on the clock, and have looked incredibly strong so far.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how their response is on this defense, because, curiously enough, they were able to find those openings on the attack. Do they have necessarily that same ability when the enemy team might be dancing around them a little bit more on this attacking phase?
No, certainly they're going to go for an unorthodox position, at least on Volskaya. It's not all that often in organized play that we see teams trying to kind of hold this choke point, but that is indeed going to be the setup for Andy's Daycare as they try and hold this down, try and prevent kind of the back line of Gaia from even being able to access the point.
They're going to have to be very careful.
They're just running at them.
It happened again. Once the DPS get away, they just absolutely feast on the soft underbelly of this team.
Indeed, and both of the flankers, Haven and Crown, are just behind them. They're putting a little bit of pressure on the point, but it's not fast enough to kind of acquire a tick or anything. And Catatrix just gets run down by the speed boost, the Reinhardt right in the face. And this is such a difficult position, but now finally we have seen Gaia be able to get through that initial choke point. They're going to be able to rotate Excellent up to the high ground, which is exactly where the Zen wants to be. So we'll see what they can make of this and how Andy's Daycare respond in this situation. They are going to be getting peppered with damage from a lot of different angles in this situation, and now we see them kind of being forced to play back here around this mega health pack as they try and buy some space, but eventually the fight has to go down on the point, and that's where Andy's Daycare are going to thrive. They've got the Amp Matrix solo up on the high ground for Andy himself. Doesn't find a lot of value out of that, but the longer this fight continues, the better it's going to look here for the defenders as they buy more and more time. There's the EMP in close quarters coming in from Crown, and the cleanup looks like it's there to follow through for Gaia Esports. They take their time, they play it very patiently, and eventually they will claim point A.
Yeah, and it took them quite a long time, given that was just one push, Shy Guy, but still, they're able to get it with 5 minutes now to take second. They might be able to rival or even top their opponent's time. They're going to have to move fast. They're going to have to work around a lot of those ultimates, particularly the EMP, which can just stop any movement in its tracks.
Indeed, and the ults are there for Andy's Daycare coming out of that first 0.0 with the EMP, especially always looking for the opportunity to set the team up, and Excellent always making a really juicy target for the EMP. As here we go, there's the rush coming in, and there's the EMP. It lands onto 4, including that Zenyatta, who has stayed alive for the time being. Crown even finding a pick, but there's a shatter coming in from Infected, and Andy's Daycare seems to have done enough in the moment, but I may have spoken too soon. They've got 3 members left on the point, but everybody falling in this moment is going to be the bomb to buy some time here for Andy's Daycare. The the Deadeye forces out that Transcendence from Excellence, and this fight incredibly chaotic. Members coming back in from both sides in this moment, but so far neither team able to gain a decisive advantage. That pin onto Astronex might just do it without the harassment coming in from the Wrecking Ball, without that Diva in the fight now as well. Things getting very difficult for Gaia Esports.
In my genuine opinion, Gaia Esports is even lucky to get that first third. I mean, we were seeing that fight go down to just the tanks and a Sombra for the side of Andy's Daycare. And they were a few seconds from getting those DPS on field, but the tanks just let up for enough time to let the attacking team get that first tick. So they're at least able to walk away with something, but they are a far cry from maintaining that same speed as their opponents. But they do have a few more ultimates to work with. Crown keeping an eye out, might have to do this faster than slower if they want to catch Hoon without their sound barrier.
Definitely, that's always something that you've got to be considering as the Sombra, as the Lucio player for the side of Andy's Daycare. But it's once again kind of slow and steady here for Gaia, just trying to find the positioning it's going to take for them to be able to put pressure here. The EMP from Crown lands onto 2, does hit Hewn Lover, and Haven able to capitalize on it. Nice follow-up there, but is it enough in this situation? There's the Deadeye, this Earth Shatter as well, sets up a kill there for J-Rob, and again, Andy's Daycare holding strong.
Yeah, and from Gaia, that really seemed like that between Crown and Astro next. They tried to do the EMP, they tried to get in there. Fidelum carry them away, preventing another source of damage. And in the meantime, Rob able to get the Deadeye online, or able to get the Deadeye off. Infected able to Earth Shatter to ensure everybody's lying down. A great response, although a little bit expensive in terms of ultimates.
And now the question for Gaia is, like, how do you find picks without the EMP online? It's going to be the mines from Astro next to be able to open things up. That will force out a sound barrier here from Hewn Liver to try and buy some space for the team. They've lost their main tank in the process, but Infected will be back much sooner than the members of Gaia in this situation. And there's another Deadeye just completely keeping Gaia off the point.
Yeah, and I said it at the beginning of Volskaya, and I'll stand by it now. I love the way J-Rob is able to use and build these Deadeyes. It is looking so effective, so coordinated with their team, just knowing those momentary openings. And right now, Gaia looking a little bit uncoordinated as they get absolutely aggressively pushed on.
Yeah, they lost both their DPS. They have to try and retreat. But you can't run. When there's a Lucio on the other side, there's no real easy way to disengage in that kind of situation. And now they're down to under a minute on the clock. We've seen swaps coming in. Haven on the Soldier 76 here hasn't been able to get a whole lot done. Fidelum going over towards the Sigma for the first time in this series to try and give us an answer, get a little bit more damage perhaps coming out from your tank line.
Absolutely, they need to do this with more than just 1 second in the time bank. Otherwise, it's just going to be on the other team to attack. So, gonna have to look to get aggressive rather quickly, or hope for that ever evading draw. But right now, it looks like Gaia just deciding to be real methodical. But that might cost him with that EMP.
Indeed, they're just going to get engaged upon. They waited so long to try and find an opportunity that it just gave Zero enough time to get up towards that EMP to drop it down, and now it's a 5v4 on the point. Haven does get a little bit of work done with that attack visor, so they've been able to gain some positioning on the point. They've got Fidelum here, putting in those hyperspheres, a lot of damage coming out, but will they be able to close this one out? J-Rob with the Deadeye gets nothing done, and it's just barely going down to the wire here. Andy's Daycare trying to hold on. They've got the Doomfist in play from Zero, who finds a little bit of purchase, but the kills going firmly in the direction of Gaia at this point, and everyone clears off the point. They secure the second point here on Volskaya, and they keep themselves in this map.
Yeah, I fear for the side of Gaia that might just be a Pyrrhic victory. The unfortunate aspect is now you have to defend for 1 and 48, and the best you get is a handshake and go next. It's gonna be tough for them to maintain that mentality moving forward, especially with the aggression we've been seeing out of Andy's Daycare. I mean, that has been characteristic of them ever since the second map.
Certainly, and like they've got to be so on point with how they position themselves does Gaia in this situation. When you are running this wrecking ball comp, when you've got that Briggs in backline, positioning is everything. You cannot allow yourself to get engaged upon. You have to be able to rotate around the point effectively and to avoid the brawl comp getting up close and personal. And at the same time, like someone like Crown has to be incredibly careful. We've seen J-Rob time and again, on this McCree, able to find a key flashbang, get an opening pick with that CC ability, and if it happens here, it might just be done for Gaia.
Yeah, absolutely. Gaia now really has to buckle down and try to bunker into a really good spot. Not literally, they're still going to be running the ball diva, looking for some fast strikes, but curiously enough, we're still not seeing the checks come out. Oh, a nice early hack onto Crown. That's going to set them up excellently.
That's the one thing you could not allow to happen as the Sombra in this situation. Now it's a 6v5 all the way. Infected Company just going to work their way towards the point. They need a single tick, and who's even going to really be able to contest them? Astronex coming in for the slam to try and find anything, but no one really can follow up. Haven doing some damage, peppering in the shots from the high ground, has Andy's Daycare kind of pinned back in towards this mini health pack room, and things are looking decent for Gaia as the slam comes down. Astronex finds that pick. The Immortality Field cannot save Lover, and now an early tack visor out from Haven. It was very scary there for Gaia, but they have staved off that first attack.
If you're looking at positives here, there aren't many. I was going to say you might be able to get back before excellent, but with Clear being mech stalled that long, that is a hard ask. That is a very unfortunate way to be. The tack visor from Haven going to be committed, though, to some decent effect, but now they won't have it for this next fight, meaning the amplification matrix from Andy might be the game changer.
Certainly, if they can get that on or get that up, find the right position to be able to toss it down, they can find a lot of value for it. This rotation is maybe a little late here from the side of Gaia, but Andy's Daycare not able to really capitalize on it. They were moving towards the high ground, but excellent, able to get away, is very close towards that EMP. That's a massive tool here available for the side of Gaia. The progress is starting to tick up here, but Catatrix and Excellent are still standing tall. They're doing some work in this Mega Health Pack room, but they might have lost too many of their teammates in this moment. The bomb coming in over the top is not going to find anyone in the overtime. Trickling away, Zira gets the EMP, but it's too little too late. Andy's Daycare nowhere to be found on this point, and Volskaya is going to be a draw here. And it
Wow.
says draw on the screen, but that is a massive win for Gaia.
That is ridiculous, Shy Guy. I mean, of all the things that happened, I was not expecting a draw here on Volskaya. Not after that first performance, not after we saw the scoreline go with 1:45 left in favor of Andy's Daycare. But, I mean, as we look at it, just all the things that happened were not in favor of ADC. I mean, we saw in that last fight, that Reinhardt Infected go for the pin, and of all the people it hits, excellent. Yes, you remove the Zenyatta Transcendence away from everybody, but now you're down without a main tank. They still have both their DPS on the field. And now your team is not have that central pillar of protection to stand around that has been providing you so much benefit. So many things could have gone differently for either of those teams that could have changed the balance of this match. But you know what we say, just go next.
Yeah, indeed. Both teams going to have to reset mentally a little bit there. I mean, Andy's Daycare, you probably thought you had that one in the bag, whereas Gaia, you're still on the back foot a little bit in this series as a whole. They still haven't necessarily kind of found the answer towards this overall kind of stylistic swap that we've seen come out from Andy's Daycare, but it's really going to be fascinating to see how the rest of this series play out. What that draw on Volskaya kind of means in the long run. Is it going to be an opportunity that Andy's Daycare just kind of let slip through their fingers, or are they going to be able to be resilient in this moment and kind of keep the momentum they've built up over the last couple of maps going?
Now, it's interesting that you say that, and I like that you say that, Shy Guy, because most people, when they see, oh, you had such a dominant like first round on Volskaya, and you kind of let it slip through your fingers, they might see that as a letdown. But for Andy's Daycare, you have to remember this was a map that Gaia picked. We were talking about that checkerboard pattern coming through here, and now Gaia might not even start to feel safe on their own map picks. I'm sure that they picked a map that they were proficient in, or
Right.
conversely, expecting Andy's Daycare to not perform as well, and neither of those are great to have your expectations turned around.
No, definitely. And at the same time for Gaia, I think you can kind of look back on that map, especially on your defense, and point to kind of a few kind of key individual mistakes that allowed that to nearly snowball out of control. I mean, it's not necessarily that they were outmatched or anything on that point, but they lose one member early on in their defense, and Andy's Daycare is able to use that brawl comp effectively to kind of snowball from there, and then just whittle away at point B, get a tick at a time, and it was well played from both sides at times there on Volskaya for sure. But we're just gonna have to see how the rest of this series plays out. It's gonna be Rialto as our next pick here. Gaia maintain kind of control of the map pick situation when we go to the draw, so they do get to once again kind of take us to a map that they're comfortable with. This is a map that they won in the previous matchup up against Andy's Daycare, but that was a very different situation to what we are seeing now with this rush comp coming out from Andy's.
Yeah, and I wonder what Andy's plan of attack is going to be going throughout Rialto. There's, of course, that very high skybox. For some other teams that are a little bit more, I guess, vertically dive-centric, we'll see something like an Echo or a Pharah come out, particularly on that first point. But being as blunt as I can, this does not seem like the flavor these teams are going to be preferring it. I mean, if you're Andy's Daycare, even if the map's not built for it, you still might lean into that Reinhardt. You still might allow yourself to just maintain that low ground on that beginning point if you know that you can just take that space from Gaia, which to a little bit of Gaia's detriment, they've been able to do a couple of times for free, for no resistance from Gaia, and sometimes with a little bit of work, a little bit of investment. But that's really going to have to be the thought process that goes through both Gaia and Andy's Daycare's mind. As we move forward, how are they going to be coping with one another, continuing those same play styles on Rialto?
Most definitely. I mean, it's a series like this, especially a 7 map series where we're still just like in the infancy. It's 1-1 right now. We've got minimum 3 more maps to go. It's a bit of a dance between these two teams. There's give and there's take, and it really is something that is constantly kind of fluid, and it's really fascinating to watch these two teams kind of go at it and adapt to each other as the series continues to play out. It's been a banger so far, absolutely, at this point, and Andy's Daycare have really, in my mind, stepped up coming into this series. They were in danger of kind of getting smashed in this series after Gibraltar, at least it looked like. But this adaptation from them has been a real treat to watch, and we'll just have to see if they can kind of continue to make this brawl comp work as we head into Rialto. I'm very curious what this is really going to look like.
Yeah, and I love the expression you used a little bit earlier when you said that they struck gold with finding this composition, right? Because kind of like mining, you have to be intelligent enough once you've found that bit of luck to know how to utilize it, right? You can say, oh, well, we'll just run the same composition. That doesn't necessarily tell you what about the composition was working right? Do you play Reinhardt on the high ground? No, you play speed and you just run into them at full force like a brick wall. Certainly what Andy's Daycare certainly seems to have been finding luck with. And now as we look, it looks like, at least for now, the tanks aren't going to be swapping up J-Rob and Zira. I'm not too sure, once again, that they won't be swapping as soon as the gates open.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an impossibility here. May and Symmetra both kind of staples in the DPS department when it comes to these brawl comps. But speaking of DPS, Haven going over towards the Hanzo for the first time in the series. This seems like a really smart adaptation to me. A lot more pressure going to be on Infected and that Reinhardt shield with the poke coming out from this long-range DPS.
Yeah, an excellent response. As you mentioned it, we're going to be seeing that early hack, but just like that, the teleporter actually going to be a staple. Zero allowing their team to get that high ground positioning. And what does this composition need even more? A little bit more mobility, Shy Guy, and that's what they're getting.
Yeah, and it just completely forces Gaia to vacate that position completely, and now they might just be waiting for another TP cooldown. Indeed, that is the case. They're trying to get onto Excellent.
Oh, no.
And tricks, and it's so difficult to play this situation as these two supports from Gaia. They don't really have an easy way to disengage when you're just getting all out aggressed upon.
And it looks like Gaia's going to perhaps tweak their formula a little bit. Catatrix is going to now be on that Mercy Crown. On the Echo, I was talking about it a little bit earlier. It's not surprising so much to see the Echo. It is surprising to see this team swap up. Might tell you that they're finally getting a little bit shaken in their composition.
No, that's absolutely the case here. Is it's still this high ground control coming through from Andy's Daycare. They will finally drop as they're just trying to push on through. Now the contest will come through from the tanks. Haven getting around the back to find an angle. The TP has completely swapped positions for both of these teams in this moment, and the kills coming through for Andy's Daycare. They are all bunched up on the cart. They're playing around this immortality field. They're playing around their shield pressure that they've got, and so far Gaia just has not been able to really find the angles to really let their DPS or Excellent kind of find any opening picks.
And right now we're just seeing kind of running the board here a la Gibraltar if the colors were flipped. For the side of Andy's Daycare, they finally have their sim put in the ground, but they're still going to be going for it. We see the Blizzard committed.
Indeed, and there's the Dragons to try and disengage a little bit here. It's even going to find the kill onto Hewn Lover. Might be a bit of an overextension here from Andy's Daycare as the collapse starts to come through. The res onto Excellent as well will make this a completely one fight for Gaia, and that's exactly what they needed to stabilize here, to buy themselves some space and at least force Andy's Daycare to kind of close the gap if they want to take a fight.
And now if you're Andy's Daycare, you have to consider your options. There is that proton barrier that's going to be online. They can just teleport themselves across the river, meaning they're not going to have to trek across the bridge. Everybody able to get over there safely. But Catatrix taken down as soon as they use the Valk. Oh no.
And that's going to mean Excellent has to use this Transcendence here if they want to be able to stick around in the fight. The duplicate coming in from Crown does bring a Reinhardt into play for the side of Gaia, but takes a lot of damage, never has a really good opportunity to get much value out of that ultimate. There's the bomb over the top, and that's just brutal. Perfectly placed from clear. Crown and Excellent can do nothing whatsoever to escape.
Yeah, and this is a peak ADC if you're looking at the team right now. They're just finding those isolated targets and continuing to pick away. Those Dragons going to try to relieve a little bit of cart pressure, but they're not really finding it, or Gaia.
No, and Haven then just has to jump towards the cart, give up their life. The shatter for good measure from Infected. Just a little bit of exclamation point on that second section of Rialto, and now we're having a little bit of an issue with Discord. It looks like for the side of Andy's Daycare, and we are trying to get this worked out, but right now, they look like they are not at all phased by what we just saw in Volskaya. Yes, you might be a little disappointed to come away with the draw there, but they have come out swinging.
Yeah, and we are seeing a pause because of some technical issues, but if you're thinking, oh, that might be why we're seeing a little bit of the limp from Gaia right now. No, the technical difficulties were coming through from ADC, from Andy's Daycare, and they were still carrying that fight pretty spectacularly. I mean, even with those tech issues, it's speaking to just the play of these teams outside of those those standard communications that you might be expecting. And now as we look towards this third point, the Sim has the opportunity to once again get this team just nestled so far deep towards the spawns of defenders. I really have to wonder how the defenders are going to cope. They only have the Diva Bomb online, and that might not feel like enough to prevent this pure aggression coming through from Andy's Daycare.
Indeed, and we'll see some more swaps here. Crown back over towards the Tracer for the time being, trying to find some angles to perhaps get in onto the backline. But the problem is everybody on Andy's Daycare, they're all just playing as a 6-man unit. It's so hard to find an opportunity, because as soon as you get close, you are in danger at that point. There's the bomb engaged, the slam over the top, forces out an immortality field, but Astronex goes down. Forces Troubles will get res back into the fight, but that's given Andy's Daycare an opportunity to try and push forward, try and engage. Haven finds one before going down, but still, this death ball is so brutal coming out from Andy's Daycare. We've seen a couple of picks go the other way, it seems like, seemingly for the first time on this map, and now Andy's Daycare having to back off at least a little bit.
Yeah, they lose that Sim, they lose the McCree. There's not much they're going to do without those two. The high damage potential and the relocation ability of the Sim, absolutely essential with how Andy's Daycare is playing right now. As we look ahead, Sound Barrier going to be available for Andy's Daycare. Transcendence, Valk, Dragon's going to be available for the side of Gaia. A lot of tools for these teams. Andy's Daycare really has to try to shake things up before those ults come into play aggressively.
Either they're trying to close the gap. Crown goes down while trying to put some poke in onto the back line, and Haven goes down, cannot get the healing from the Transcendence. The pin from Infected took Excellent away from the Hanzo there, and now things looking dire for Gaia in this moment. They've lost Fidelum on the point. Astronex is in the area to try and at least stall for a little while, throws out that shield, but now the bomb on the point is absolutely brutal. Doesn't quite find anything, but the remake will clear, finds Catatrix, and now things just desperation for Gaia. It won't be within their grasp to hold on any longer, and 2:06 on Rialto, that is just an incredible time bank.
Yeah, that is rather impressive. And I said that they needed to, the side of Andy's Daycare needed to get up into the face of their opponents, get something happening before the ults came online. That's exactly what we saw, with the exception of the dragons that sailed through. But at that point, they were already mid-teleport and mitigating the dragons' damage coming through. And Excellent had to pop a little, looked kind of like a panic Transcendence, but just gets carried away. Infected able to do the job this time with the Reinhardt, and just a big meaty pin. It results in no kills directly, but just everybody else off screen is dying.
Certainly, and this is a further situation where come up with anything to really stop Andy's Daycare from just running at them, from using those Sim TPs to close the gap and to force fights with the vulnerable members. I mean, we saw so many times Catatrix and Excellent just getting dove on top of with the entire squad there. Like, it's not just one or two members that you have to deal with, that you have to try and peel for. It's everybody right there, and it's been incredibly difficult for Gaia to find anything. And as they kind of scramble for answers a little bit, we've got further swaps. Crown coming in on the Pharah this time is definitely an adaptation that we haven't seen before, but one that can definitely do a lot of damage when you are dealing with those brawl comps that are inherently just going to be playing very close together.
Yeah, and I wonder, right, as far as Andy's Daycare is concerned, we saw them bring out the Sim, and we were talking a bit at the beginning about how Haven was an excellent choice to switch onto this Hanzo. I wonder if they had a little bit of that foresight, that cognition to know that they might try, the side of Gaia might be going a little bit more long range, might be going a little bit more, wear the shield down status, and then kind of picked to counteract that, or if they just decided, hey, we know how to play Sim on Rialto and we're going to make it work, and they did. Now it starts to change up here. They don't seem to be having that same mindset on this defensive round, So how are they going to necessarily be trying to mitigate Haven on this Hanzo now that they can't just instantly teleport 30 feet in front of them and just hit him in the face with a hammer?
Yeah, certainly him and Excellent are both, I think, breathing a sigh of relief. When they notice that the sim is not in play this time, they won't have to worry necessarily about a Reinhardt kind of showing up in your back line and just blowing you to pieces. And now the question does kind of become, what does Andy's Daycare do to deal with this poke comp that we are kind of seeing come out from Gaia with the Hanzo, with the Pharah? What can they do to really put some pressure on these DPS of Gaia as Haven finds the opening pick? The boop there kind of sets it up a little bit as Andy goes down, and now it does seem to be like Andy's Daycare. They want to push forward, they want to take this fight in the moment, and that does seem to have been the right call as they push forward right into the middle of Gaia and they wipe them from the streets of Rialto.
I was going to say that Andy was the member you did not want to lose in that, just because of the speed you can build up that amplification matrix, but it doesn't seem like it bothered Andy's Daycare at all. They just went about business as usual. Hune apparently was all the healing they needed for the rest of that fight. But now, once again, we're seeing the swaps come through, and I'm starting to wonder if this is a bit of panic from Gaia.
It certainly looks like they don't necessarily know how to kind of counter what we're seeing out from Andy's Daycare. They have a difficult time of kind of forcing fights, especially with this high ground control that we're seeing. There's a nice boot coming in from Astronex, at least forces Andy's Daycare down onto the low ground where they're a little bit more vulnerable, but still finding the right targets is proving incredibly difficult. The pulse bomb will find its mark there from Zira as both supports now down and out of the fight here for Gaia. That should spell the end of this one, and already that's 2 minutes off the clock here for Gaia on their attack.
Yeah, and one thing I'm going to be looking for is Haven to use those dragons to try to split up this team, really make them real as far as that clustered style that they at least start these fights off with. It seems like once they find that early opening, they're content to let it split, but Haven not even going to be able to be given the chance.
Oh my god, but look at the payload. It's moving, it's making its way towards the finish line here. The contest should be able to come in from Andy's Daycare. It is going to happen. In that fight, they just decided we're going to go for a little bit of a bait play. They waited until Gaia had committed to the fight. They speed onto Haven once again, and they punish the Hanzo in that situation. Yeah, they give up a little bit of progress, but they win the fight, and that's all you're really looking for.
Yeah, especially as we get towards that very back end with the cart being so close to point. Every second is going to start to matter there, especially as we see it progress more and more. But as we look now clear, having this Diva Bomb might be one of the more important ultimates. Can just throw it up into the air, immediately put Catatrix and Crown in a bad spot. That's going to be it.
Focus down the beam from Crown, able to take them out, and things finally starting to look doable here for Gaia as Zira still doing work on this Tracer. J-Rob back in on the Doomfist, goes from Widow to Doom in this fight to try and make something happen, get back in here. Haven will deal with them, but the reinforcements have arrived for Andy's Daycare, and now they're pushing back towards the Gaia spawn once again. The attackers just getting stonewalled.
Yeah, if you're favorable on the side of Gaia, you say, well, now they force J-Rob to go on to that Doomfist. That's going to be something that's a little bit weaker to that Echo, should they be able to get that long distance advantage, which they might not even get the opportunity to with this amplification matrix.
No, the Echo can't even really show their face in this fight, and Astronex is going to take a decent amount of damage here as they push up to the point. The long-range fire strike, you can't do them like that. Infected and Gaia are just falling to pieces right before our eyes. They do take down J-Rob. The pulse bomb can't quite connect there for Haven, and the brawl on the point is always going to favor Andy's Daycare. Reinhardt swinging away. It's just the tanks remaining for Gaia, and I don't think they have enough firepower to turn this one around. The overtime will expire, and Andy's Daycare have flipped this series on its head completely. They have taken control in every way possible.
This is looking very good for Andy's Daycare. They are suddenly in a very happy spot, as now they are only a map or two away from that victory. As we look ahead here, Shy Guy, I want to remind people at home, make sure you're sending these teams your love. Let us know who your MVP picks are. We're getting towards the end. It might not feel like it. It may feel like we're flying through a lot of these games with all the action we're seeing, but we are getting closer and closer to that end. So make sure you're voting for the MVP. Let us and the players know who you love to see out on the field.
Yeah, I mean, right now though, like obviously at the end of the night, one player is going to come away with this MVP award. But to me, it just completely feels whoever on this team has decided to kind of pivot into this rush comp, whoever has kind of identified this as an opportunity, as a way to kind of strike at the heart of Gaia, I don't know who to give credit to necessarily. I mean, we don't necessarily have the knowledge of like the inner workings of the team, but the effort from this squad and the adjustments that they have made since the last time we saw them have been tremendous, and right now they have got Gaia on the ropes.
Yeah, things looking very good for Andy's Daycare. Few maps short of winning this thing, but we still have, that means, of course, a few maps to go. We are not anywhere. Well, we're kind of near done. I'd say we're about at the 50% mark. If you're looking at 4 out of 7, that's close enough. I'm not sharp enough to do fractions by sevens, Shy Guy, if I'm being honest with you and the folks at home. But either way, Andy's Daycare standing a whole head above their opponents in Gaia. Gaia's going to once again get to pick map, but I gotta feel at a certain point they might start to just roll over in their mind that it might not matter.
Certainly, I mean that's now 2 maps in a row that they have gotten to choose, and they have not been able to really get a whole lot going. I mean, on a certain level, if you're Andy's Daycare, like like it's serious in your mind should probably be a 3-1 at this point. You should really be on match point in a sense, and if you're Gaia, you are thankful that it didn't get to that point on Volskaya, but now you're really running out of options. You've tried to make some DPS swaps, but fundamentally, Gaia does not seem like a team that is kind of capable or at least willing to kind of completely forego their plan of attack. They have yet to really show us anything besides these wrecking ball comps, and even if you change things around that, even if you throw Haven onto the Hanzo there, you try to go for those aerial DPS in either the Pharah or the Echo, if you're still playing the Wrecking Ball, you're still kind of fundamentally playing the same style in a lot of respects. And, so far that has not been the answer to what Andy's Daycare is throwing at them.
Yeah, absolutely, and I do want to clear something at home for the viewers at home here, for a moment, if you don't mind, Shy Guy. We are in a best of 7, but because of the draw on Volskaya, we will still be seeing a team have to win 4 maps. If we see another tie, that's going to change things up. It'll mean that one team only has to win 3. But right now, as we're looking at it, one meal at a time, it's going to have to be ADC or Gaia still winning 4 maps. Gaia's going to have quite the run back to make that happen, though.
Indeed, but at the same time, you're 1 map down. Like it's not it's not DEFCON 5. You haven't gotten to the situation where everybody is in panic mode, but you do at some point have to start turning things around. And so far they haven't really given us any indication of how they might be able to do that at this point. So it's not over by any means. I mean, we have seen crazier things all the time in Overwatch. This would by no means be the weirdest occurrence we've even seen in an all-star brawl by any means. And like Gaia has been in situations like this before. They were down 2-0 to Regen earlier on in the upper bracket of this tournament. Flipped that on its head, reverse swept that series. So it's not an impossibility by any means.
And now, folks, after much deliberation, I'm sure, from the Gaia side, we're going to be seeing Blizzard World be the call. And if I was going to have to pick a hybrid map of those that we have on the roster, that being Eichenwald, Kings Row, and Blizzard World, I would expect Gaia to probably pick Blizzard World. It's a little bit more friendly towards those high ground possessions. It's going to be a little bit harder for Andy's Daycare to really get up there too easily with that Reinhardt. That Diva and ball response time can be absolutely crucial. So it kind of makes sense to me that Gaia's deciding to opt into Blizzard World as their next map, but Andy's Daycare, we've seen, doesn't necessarily care whether you have high ground. They might go sim to just contest you and push you off that high ground if you're not paying them the respect.
Right. Absolutely. And, they use the sim to great effect there. On Rialto, and it's now something that has to be in the back of the mind of Gaia. Like it wasn't necessarily there before. We hadn't seen it in the first few maps of this series, but now that it's there, it's another kind of wrinkle to the gameplay of Andy's Daycare that gives them an easy way to kind of fix or improve upon some of the weaknesses of their comp, which is that it's not necessarily like the most mobile. Like if you want to close the gap, you usually have to rely on that Lucio speed boost, but Symmetra just brings a whole nother element to the game. It has to, it kind of goes into your mind if you're Gaia, like everywhere that you position, not only do you have to think about, what kind of angles do I have, how can they access me, but now you just have to worry about, are they gonna appear right in front of me at any moment? Like, it's so scary.
Yeah, it's intimidating, and Andy's Daycare does not seem to be letting up at all. We are waiting to get word as to what teams are going to be on what side, although Andy's Daycare has been content to just stay starting off on these attacking modes for the escorts, for the hybrids, and that's exactly what's going to be happening here. No real change up in terms of who's going to be going first. It's going to be Andy's Daycare on the attack.
Indeed, and they've been on attack. I think every map that we have played so far, at least where that is applicable at all. And there on Rialto, they came out swinging. They put up such a great time bank on that map, and it ultimately didn't even really matter when you get the full hold. It's the attack kind of falls by the wayside, but we cannot forget how dominant that run was there from Andy's Daycare on the attacking side. So like they've got to continue to kind of keep that momentum going. They've got to be feeling very good about this. Once again, we're seeing a little bit of a change here, just not anything major coming out from Gaia Esports, but Crown on the Ashe is something to think about, at least here. Gives them a lot of poke damage, is really powerful when you pair it up with those Discord orbs coming out from Excellent, and does give you a little bit of a disengage tool in the form of that coach gun.
Oh, I absolutely have to agree. Again, it all comes down to that long-range poke ability onto ADC that you really like seeing if you're on Gaia. It is going to be the sim in pocket, though, and it looks like they may have sussed that out with those dodgeballs getting sent. So they're going to back up, try to respect the space that sim could just instantly acquire.
Certainly, but now the rotation coming through from Andy's Daycare. Where do they want to take this? Now they speed boost onto the point, and Catatrix caught in their sights. The fire strike connects. The supports are down, and Gaia have crumbled on this defense.
Yeah, I mean, if you were playing, just on ladder, and you're those supports players just getting smoked by the team every time, you'd have to start flaming up your team at this point. I'm sure there's communications a little bit more constructive than that going on Gaia's side, but just Excellent and Catatrix still not quite able to take advantage of those non-existent movement abilities, get themselves out of harm's way, and that really seems to be the feeding point for Andy's Daycare.
I mean, and this is a thing that teams struggle with at all levels. Like even going up to the Overwatch League, we saw a team like the Atlanta Reign run the brawl comps all the way to the grand finals. It took the incredible nature of the Shanghai Dragons to eventually shut them down, but this is not an easy dilemma for Gaia to deal with in this moment, and the pin connects long range there onto Astro next. Clear able to find that kill, and so much space being taken here by Andy's Daycare so far in this fight. They might have overextended just a little bit here, and at the least they left the payload behind.
Yeah, it's like you earn all that space, but what does it really get you if the cart's not moving and you're not able to eventually get it back to the point you're holding? You buy a little bit of time, so you might be feeling a little bit fortunate there, but you're building up a chest of ultimates. We have the Shatter, we have the Self-Destruct, Blizzard, Amplification as well. Zero going to be switching onto the McCree, so no Sim ult online, of course. But now as we look, a lot of tools to play with on the attacker side.
Oh, most definitely. There's the Amp Matrix, and it's just going to kind of completely clear Gaia Esports away from this point. The Blizzard up on the high ground forces out a very early Transcendence there from Excellent, but J-Rob does give his life in that moment, was a little bit separated from the rest of the team, and now a 6v5 is where Gaia wants to try and thrive. This is where they have an opportunity to kind of pick apart Andy's Daycare. The bomb up over the top does buy some space up on the high ground, but doesn't really do a whole lot for Andy's Daycare. They weren't in position to kind of move in and capitalize off that, but they've reset. They've gotten their team up into position, and now they can start feeling very, very powerful.
And this is the warning sign I always talk about for Gaia. You can't just give up this space for free without a plan to cope with it. It's gonna be the side of ADC who just used that Shatter, apply that damage, and once again we're seeing the simple combination of Deadeye and Earth Shatter. Excellent performance so far.
Indeed, Crown gonna be using the duplicate to at least give them some staying power in this fight. Throws down a Shatter of their own, but cannot quite secure any of the kills on the back. It gets taken out of the duplicate form, and Astronex not gonna be able to stick around in this fight. Things are going from bad to worse here for Gaia. The bomb over the top tries to buy some space, will be able to take down Hugh and Lover, so an opportunity for Gaia to make some magic happen here, and they do finally come out on top. They're swarming around this point, and they stop it just shy of that second checkpoint.
All right, a little bit of recognition is due here, Shy Guy. Didn't Excellent just use a Transcendence during Blizzard last fight? And they already had another one up. Excellent damage that must be coming through, and healing that must be coming through from that Zenyatta. As we can see, Zenyatta gonna have the second most damage for their team, just behind, not just behind, a bit behind, but still able to build up that Transcendence. Excellent. Gonna definitely worthy of being called the player worth keeping an eye on as this fight starts with the Deadeye. Doesn't find anything.
Doesn't seem to be the case right now, but it does just zone everybody from Gaia away. Look how far back these supports have been pushed, and Excellent cannot get out of the way of that self-destruct no Zenyatta in this fight. But in the meantime, Hainbin has been able to find an early pickoff here, so still an opportunity for Gaia to get back into this fight to really make something happen here, as you know, still, Andy's Daycare just sticking together as a unit. They've become very difficult to deal with. Crown coming in from long range with the pin, copies the Reinhardt, takes down both tanks in this fight, throws down the Shatter for good measure as well, and we'll find a couple of picks off the back.
Yeah, but this fight's still not over. Both these teams fighting with just the scraps of what they have. The Diva, the Tracer, the Brig, the Zen. This is looking like a hodgepodge fruit salad of a fight, Shy Guy.
Indeed, but it's going to be Gaia who come out on top in the end. They have the closer respawns. Astronex able to get back into the fight in time to provide some reinforcement there, and so once again, Andy's Daycare gonna have to reset, try and find this avenue into this engagement once again. Under a minute remaining on the clock now, so Gaia, stabilizing a little bit here on Blizzard World. They're finding some value in these fights, doing much better in terms of kiting back and avoiding losing people early. There's the Deadeye though, takes Crown right out of the sky, and now things looking very good. The rally in for Catatrix is going to buy some space here, but the trans is forced out by that Earthshatter. Still, the kills going the way of Gaia at the moment, and they will be able to hang on once more. Andy's Daycare, though, they need to just die. They need to avoid these staggers because 10 seconds is all that remains.
Yeah, there's not going to be too much time for Andy's Daycare to really get anybody up onto point. They have the Lucio, they have the D.Va trying to make a mad dash for it. It's not looking great. The D.Va comes out clear, getting burned, unable to touch.
Yeah, the boop there was really well done. That I'm pretty sure that was Catastrix coming through with the whip shot to even avoid the overtime in that situation, and that is exactly what Gaia needed. That is exactly what the doctor ordered in this situation. They've been bleeding out, and they are finally able to get a tourniquet on it to stop that one before things get too bad, and now they have an opportunity to even up this series.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. Gaia able to finally put the doorstop in, prevent Andy's Daycare from running away too much with this. And now Andy's Daycare has to be in the position of realizing that, you know, maybe the composition doesn't work every time, but what you'd really be hoping for is success on this first point, right? Especially with those small chokes. If you expect Catatrix and Excellent to keep running the support combination that you've been able to utilize, again, you're gonna know they're either gonna be going through main or they're gonna be going through gift shop. Either one of those, if their DPS aren't with them, you just immediately go push ahead, crush the supports, and then the rest of the team should be clean, like very, very cleanable, very, very easy to follow through. The question remains: does that execution come through? Do they leave Catatrix and Excellent open? And does the side of Andy's Daycare follow through and see those openings?
Certainly, it's something that we saw, you know, on Volskaya especially. Like it's very easy if you leave that back line behind as the rest of the team moves through the choke. It's easy for Andy's Daycare to find some value in that situation. But this one, a much more kind of wide open point. So many different angles to worry about if you are Andy's Daycare. And already they've been forced off the high ground just by virtue of the poke coming out from Haven and Crown.
Yeah, and not too surprised. We've seen Gaia play that poke, at least attempt to play that poke to a proficient level, and right now they're being successful of it. They're forcing these rotations. They're forcing the rush composition to move in a way they don't necessarily want. That's a good adaptation.
Yeah, this has been really well intelligently played from Gaia so far, and now Crown able to capitalize off of the slam coming in from Astro. Next, it's a brilliant opening fight here for Gaia as they take point A with, you know, nearly 3 minutes on the clock. They're going to have a lot of time to work with just to basically get to the end of point B here on Blizzard World.
Yeah, it's so far set for a very good position of Gaia, but right now we're looking at Gaia, and it seems like these teams are just constantly playing a game of who can put their opponent in a worse position or who can catch their opponent in a worse position. And so far, Gaia made that game happen excellently on that first push. It looks like they're setting up to try to make it happen again with Astronex on top of this turret, a big pile driver in.
Most definitely, but there's the Amp Matrix coming out from Andy's Daycare just to try and control this choke point for the time being, but there's not really anybody from Gaia Esports in the area to worry about at this moment. There's the TP trying to get into that Mega Health Pack room. Excellent, forced to use the Transcendence. Cannot save Catatrix through the pin, but it's a scrappy fight in close quarters. And when the mines are out to play, that's not where you want to be for Andy's Daycare.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually saw the Transcendence come out from Excellent already a fifth of the way to their next one, but really that Transcendence felt more like a panicle. There wasn't too many people from the side of Gaia who really could get too much benefit just based off of the breadth that this team was playing at, playing a little too scattered. But now we're looking at final fight territory for Andy's Daycare if they don't hold on to this.
Certainly now they've got a tall task ahead of them, holding on here at the end of point B for 4 minutes, but they open things off well with the kill onto Fidel, and they've lost Hewn Lover. The poke continues to come in from all angles. Haven and Excellent finding opportunities to really get a lot of damage down from these alt angles, and Crown on the point with the Diva is going to throw out a bomb to try and buy some space. Gets the remake, and now the kills continue to roll through here for Gaia. Infected, all that remains on the payload, and he will be cut down. Gaia Esports answer back. They take Blizzard World, and they even this series up once more.
Wow, this is looking like such an intense game from both of these sides. Blizzard World finally finding the payoff in this map of Blizzard World. Not seeing a win since Gibraltar, the first map, but you're going to be breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief. I mean, you mentioned it. It wasn't DEFCON 5, as you said. I like that. But still, going to be comfortable knowing that now you're not lagging behind your opposition. Now you're on equal footing. You're both down 2. You've both tied a map. So now we get to look ahead, although it does put Andes in the position of being able to pick the next map, which, as we mentioned before, can be a little bit more favorable.
Yeah, $20 on Blizzard World, or sorry, on King's Row here. That's where I got my money. I think, given what we've seen from Andy's Daycare, that seems to kind of be the in my mind at least, like the map that makes the most sense. But we'll just have to see where they want to take us in this series. It's been really fascinating. The back and forth between these two teams so far has just been a thrill to watch. You know, something to keep an eye on. You know, on Blizzard World, we didn't really see the Symmetra have much of an impact. It did come out to play a little bit there towards the end of the map for Andy's Daycare, but they weren't able to put it to the same kind of effect that we saw in Rialto, and it didn't really make an appearance until the very end. So I'm curious to see if that is still going to be in their arsenal moving forward. It was something that I thought really put a tremendous amount of pressure onto Catatrix and Excellent. And you know, given that what we know about these two supports, how talented they are, Excellent, especially on that Zenyatta, if you give him space, that's just a really scary prospect, and it's something that Andy's Daycare I think do need to kind of focus on if they want to be able to continue making this series on their own terms. They've got to make his life miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about King's Row being the next map we anticipated coming out from Andy's Daycare. However, Shy Guy, looks like it might be down $20. It's going to be Hanamura instead. So not quite the map we were expecting, although that does make sense. We did just play a hybrid map. There's no back-to-back map types, and King's Row would be a hybrid map. So I'll give you the slide on that one, Shy Guy. They got you on a technicality, although I'm sure that's up there in Andy's Daycare's arsenal. But as we look towards Hanamura, I'm not too surprised to see this either. I do struggle to see how Gaia is going to be using that ball, especially on that second point where we see so many teams take that high ground through those narrow hallways where a ball can just put themselves in some absolute trouble if they're not careful or know some pretty specific lineups.
Yeah, and as we go to Hanamura, it's worth noting, I think, that of all the maps in Overwatch, this one might be the most suited for Symmetra and her teleporter and all the ways it allows you to navigate both points here on Hanamura. It's really, really valuable, and obviously something that we've seen coming out from Andy's Daycare at times in this series. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for sure as we go into map number 6 of our 7-map series. And my god, this has just been such a thriller so far. Both of these teams have really come to play, and where we're seeing this back and forth between two teams. And I'm incredibly pleased that Gaia was able to come up with a response there on Blizzard World. It felt like at times on the previous couple maps that things were getting away from them, but no, they stand strong. I think they started making some really smart rotations with their backline in terms of being able to kind of avoid those rush comps. And yeah, we saw them get caught out a time or two, but it was much less prevalent than we had seen previously.
I'm gonna say something that might sound a little bit inflammatory here, Shy Guy. I think that the success we're seeing from Gaia is from an all-around team adaptation, where I mentioned it on Volskaya, it felt like a lot of the play was being held around their main tank, and I believe Haven. Now it just looks like the whole team's kind of coordinating a little bit more as a unit, and because of that, they're able to take advantage, get a little bit more focus onto those individual players, and then when the fight breaks up into small, different fragments, they're able to win a little bit more reliably there as well.
Certainly, and now as we head in toward this first attack of Volskaya, Andy's Daycare coming out with the sim once again, but it's a big change here. It's the first real kind of stylistic change we've seen out of Gaia throughout this series in terms of bringing this Orisa into play. Astronex is looking for an opportunity to halt people off the high ground if they go for a TP play, but instead it's just going to be Andy's Daycare rotating through the staircase, doing it the old-fashioned way, getting to the high ground, but they still do and already has the barrage online.
That is going to be a hard push for Andy's Daycare to have to make, both out of this room and maintaining self on point. Luckily, they have the teleporter, but that just gives a giant neon sign as to where Crown can just drop the bomb. That is a massive 5-kill.
Oh my god, that was so aggressive from Crown. I absolutely love it. Chad behavior right there to just go right into the face of the enemy team with the barrage, drops it on their heads, and completely wipes them from the map. And they even used an ultimate there. I mean, Andy dropped the Amp Matrix as soon as they came through the TP, but no one even got an opportunity to use it.
Yeah, and I don't disrespect this swap coming through from J-Rob. The hit scan just trying to be a little bit more resilient, but J-Rob caught out. Now it's looking like a turn of tides.
Certainly they destroy the TP before the McCree can get through that, and instead it's going to be a fight on the point here. Crown still doing so much damage, nearly at barrage number 2. Infected does answer back with a kill onto Astronex, and that could be problematic unless the fight can get cleaned up here. Crown does seem to have done enough to buy time here. They give up 2 ticks, but they do hang on to the point, and they're going to be able to get the res onto their main tank as well. So everybody's standing as we come in towards this third attack.
Yeah, and a little bit of shades of Volskaya, where we're seeing Gaia every time, or you know, once every while, just starting to give up little slices of that point percentage. Oh, nasty early entry onto Andy. That's going to be expensive for the attacking team. We don't have to wait 8 seconds.
Indeed they do, and it's getting a little bit awkward here for the side of Andy's Daycare. They have not really been able to deal with Crown so far, who is finding so much more value this time around than what we saw previously when they broke it out on Rialto. And here we go, another opportunity for the TP play. It's going to be successful this time around, at least in terms of getting everybody towards the point. But J-Rob again getting caught out in these rotations is really awkward. Crown is just going unopposed in the sky at the moment, but this time it's going to be Haven doing the bulk of the damage with that tac visor. Cleans up 2, and now we're going to have one really good attempt here for Andy's Daycare to try to make something happen on Hanamura.
And I didn't want to say it until I saw it happen the second time, but I think J-Rob staying back intentionally, trying to deal with that Pharah and Mercy as they drop towards that entryway. And I don't know if that's necessarily the route to go here. You're just getting isolated by these targets. It's ironic that ADC is not using that inward reflection to say, oh, hey, we do that to their supports. Let's not let that happen to our McCree.
But this time that Symmetra wall is going to provide a little bit more safety here for J-Rob. He can unleash the Deadeye with impunity and finds excellent deep in the back lines there. Crown has been dealt with as well, and finally Andy's Daycare have found their avenue in. They have found their entry point. They will be able to take this first point on Hanamura.
And it took them quite a few tries, but eventually the ball will drop. They'll be able to get it. 3 minutes moving ahead. They have 2 ultimates coming in from the tanks. Not much else on the board for either of these teams, so not a huge amount of snowball potential here, especially considering everybody from the defense already going to be nestled up into position. Curious to see Crown staying on this Pharah, though. I think they would switch to something a little bit more familiar or a little bit more ground-based, given just how much high ground can be easily obtained by the attacking team.
Certainly gonna have to be very careful around how they play these angles. Not a lot of cover to hide behind here on this second point as the high ground push coming in from Andy's Daycare. There's the Amp Matrix and the Pharah and Mercy both just kind of staying as high in the sky as they possibly can. Clear beefs the Diva Bomb a little bit there. I assume meant to send that towards the point to buy some space, but instead Andy's Daycare gonna have to try and rotate around behind the point, but they've lost J-Rob in the meantime, and now they lack a lot of the damage they need to be able to turn this fight in their favor. They're still sticking to it at the moment, though, using this TP to try and give themselves an opportunity, but now they lose Clear as well, and they're not going to be able to turn this one.
Yeah, no way this is going to work for the side of Andy's Daycare. However, they were able to get a little bit of entry in. It doesn't get them enough to get that first tick, but it's still something. They do need to die rather quickly or get out, but man, Zira is just not getting an easy time of that.
Yeah, that's great. I love the stagger onto the Symmetra. You don't usually see it with DPS players, but what do you really care if the Symmetra has an ult? The wall is not the best, and Zira already had it available anyway, so it's kind of a good thing there, especially now as we look towards the clock. A minute left once again for Andy's Daycare, and this time they don't have the luxury of any ticks on the board. They're gonna have to get it all in one shot here, and they are walking into a loaded Gaia Esports. 6 ultimates nearly online for the defenders. There's the TP to point. The Deadeye does find Crown. That's a big opening pick, but the res is available to make sure that this is an even fight. And now the visor and the barrage, the DPS is overwhelming here from Gaia, and like fish in a barrel, Andy's Daycare can do nothing whatsoever to escape their fate.
And it looks like Gaia able to finally start putting some literacy skills to the test. That was an excellent read coming through. You see the teleporter, you know everybody's going to be bunched up right about there. So that's where Crown has the rocket barrage lined up. Yeah, the damage tries to go through, but the Diva Matrix, the nano boost is there. I believe I even saw an Animate thrown in as well. So Crown not going to be too bothered already, 2/3 of the way to another. But now somebody has to just touch points.
I think it's gonna be Zira who gets in there on the Tracer to trigger the overtime. The rest of the team trying to make their way through the main choke point, but they still have to deal with Crown, and they've been utterly incapable of doing that throughout this map so far. It is gonna be a single tick given over to Andy's Daycare, but that is all they will be able to achieve here on Hanamura. This was their map pick, and now Gaia have an opportunity to steal it away.
A great opportunity here for Gaia to put themselves once again back on top, and the question starts to look, does Andy's Daycare run the same defense that they ran on offense, or do they kind of bend the knee? Do they start to concede that there might be a different look for their defense, as now maybe their composition starts to look a little bit shakier? Question still remains, questions yet to be answered, but interestingly enough, we were expecting the Sim to come out here and be really potent, but a little bit more impotent than anything else.
Certainly, and I think that is due in large part to the adaptations we saw from Gaia on this map. Getting the Orisa in there for Astronex is a really smart decision there. It gives you a lot more stability, a lot more ability to play around the point and have some protection for your backline. Going over to the Pharah gives Catatrix a great opportunity to just kind of keep themselves safe, stay away from that brawl comp entirely, and hats off to Crown. Obviously, a lot of the credit always going to go to the DPS, but you got to be able to land those shots, and the Pharah for Gaia absolutely did so there on the defense. We'll see what they can do as they go back over towards the Wrecking Ball looks. It's Gaia's bread and butter for sure, but they will be dealing with the Orisa on the other side. This is the first time we've seen this out of Andy's Daycare as well, so definitely a kind of a different situation for both of these teams.
We are seeing Gaia right now just being patient. We did see the swap come out from Haven, so they might just be sussing out their options, figuring out where is the weakest target. And Excellent going to be pretty happy about this. They can't get isolated as much on this high ground, especially with the tanks and supports that their opposition's running. So we do see them getting a little bit more bold, a little bit more up into the face of their opponents, a little bit more front facing, I suppose is the best way to say it.
Most definitely. We do see the dive coming in there. They trying to get onto Andy, who has had to use that immortality field very early on into this fight, but still, it does look like Gaia has been corralled a little bit into this mini health pack room. They're trying to fight their way out. They find one pick. They take clear out of the mech, and they get Hugh and Lover as well. Andy's Daycare overcommit a little bit there, and they get punished pretty hard for it.
Yeah, that is pretty rough. You expect the Orisa to try to buy you a little bit of stability, and you try to lock everybody in that small room, but it just looks like the healing wasn't quite there. Thune and Andy not quite able to do it all on their own, and it's going to cost them a point. But as we look ahead, it's still slightly in favor of the defensive team for right now. We are going to be seeing wholesale swaps, which will change up what I just said, but anxious to see J-Rob on this Ashe. I really want to see the damage get thrown out.
It certainly definitely has a tremendous amount of value here on the second point of Hanamura. Is going to force Crown to translocate out with that early dynamite, but already we're seeing some position being gained here for the side of Gaia, getting a little bit of purchase onto this high ground, and now the supercharger coming out from Infected. They want to push forward with that, but J-Rob gonna be the one to make good use of it. Finds the headshot onto Haven, and that's at least one pick here for the side of Andy's Daycare.
Andy's Daycare in an excellent spot. They dropped that turbocharger, but they don't want to get too aggressive with it, knowing if they peek outside, they're going to be facing the full force of the enemy team. So pretty much they're just going to have to commit that turbocharger to getting one kill, and it's not necessarily the most free ultimate you get in terms of value. You're still going to have to deal with these next couple of pushes. It did stagger out for quite a long time, as we're seeing, about 30-45 seconds. EMP into the back line.
Indeed, and now the supports are not really going to be able to stand tall in this situation for Andy's Daycare. They get collapsed upon completely, and this is the dive prowess that we have come to expect out of Gaia Esports. They have wiped Andy's Daycare from the face of this map, and now Zira desperately trying to keep the stall going on point, but no hope whatsoever. Gaia have swung things back in their favor, and now they put themselves on match point.
Yeah, an excellent position to be in, and to no surprise, we see that Crown is going to be receiving play of the game. Not as prestigious as our MVP, so make sure you're voting in there, folks. I know that there have been a few MVPs that might be revealed throughout this gameplay, but we have only more to come. Now, as we look ahead here, however, Shy Guy, we're not quite done. You mentioned it. Match point for Gaia. 2 more map wins required for Andy's Daycare. And now Andy's Daycare gets to pick another map, and so far it doesn't seem like it's ever too reliable when it's your map pick. You can never be sure that you're going to come out clean or dirty on the other end.
No, definitely. And now at least, now maybe they go to Kings Row. We'll see. We'll see now that at least it's an option. It's on the table here for Andy's Daycare. But regardless of where they take us, they now have to worry in the back of their heads. If Crown goes back to the Pharah, how exactly do we respond to that? What is our plan of attack? Can we ignore the Pharah and effectively take fights around the rest of the team, or do we have to try and go for something a little bit more directly to counter that pick? We'll see what it winds up being here. But for Andy's Daycare, a series that was once well within your grasp has started to slip a little bit. Now is when that draw on Volskaya really potentially starts to hurt here. It's not the situation you wanted to find yourself in, and Gaia once again looking like the team that that came into this series the favorite.
And I brought it up, I think it was on the Nepal or Volskaya, but again, the question of how long before these teams start to show a little bit of that fatigue, right? Andy's Daycare perhaps went to the well one too many times with that sim, making it a little bit too predictable. Gaia, I mean, the absolute opposite could have happened with Gaia, where they picked the Pharah to come out. It doesn't work in their favor. That Pharah gets absolutely punished while in the sky, and then Andy's Daycare has a blistering Hanamura. But doesn't seem like that's going to quite be the case. So I wonder if these teams can maintain that sharpness, that mental acuity to really keep themselves in and moving along as we look here. Do get word that the next map is going to be King's Row, so Andy's Daycare has the opportunity to run that Reinhardt again. But I always like to add that on King's Row, Pharah on that first point, not exactly the worst option, so might be seeing it come out from the DPS once again if Gaia don't decide to go back to their old ways.
Right. That's the question for me. The biggest thing is, what kind of look are we getting out of Gaia here? Because we saw both there on Hanamura, and both worked incredibly well. The defense around that Orisa, around that Pharah, was immaculate. The attack was arguably even better. I mean, they were pretty much flawless there on Hanamura from start to finish. So a really good response from them over the course of these last couple of maps have swung this series into a very different place than it was after Rialto. And now we're in a situation where Andy's Daycare are once again the ones who have to respond, who have to come up with an answer in this situation. And it's been that's been the case throughout this entire series. It's never been a situation where these two teams are like going toe to toe or like neck and neck on any given map. Every map has kind of been one-sided, other than the one draw that we had on Volskaya. Like it's always been one team or the other really taking the bull by the horns and making it their own. So I'm very curious how this seventh map of the series will play out. Will we be going to an eighth to decide it all, or will Gaia be able to close this out and claim their spot atop the All-Star Brawl?
Yeah, and very worth noting that a draw here, I believe, will still mean that Gaia wins. So for ADC, all you can do, at least until you get one more win in your pocket, is just win. Anything else will result in at this point, less than swift death. We have been going for about 2 hours here, Shy Guy. We have been, I say we, like we're the ones actually playing, but these teams have been grinding it out, been playing tooth and nail, and now it looks like it might potentially come to a head here on King's Row as Gaia is on that match point. We are waiting for the teams to confirm their ready status. Looks like Gaia going to be switching it up on us. They're going to be starting off on the attack now.
Yeah, for the first time all series, we're swapping sides. So this is Gaia's opportunity. If they can come out here, this is where you can deal a knockout blow. This is where you can kind of put that first nail in the coffin. Of course, I mean, you'll have to come out and do it defensively as well. But a blistering attack here on King's Row could be the death knell for Andy's Daycare in this series and in this tournament as a whole. Gaia are looking to claim their spot as the top dogs here, and they have the momentum on their side once more. They have kind of the confidence back in their play after these last couple of maps, and they are very, very close to the promised land. They are very close to taking it all the way here in what has been just an absolutely incredible series to watch.
Oh, I absolutely have to agree, Shy Guy. Incredible is perhaps one of the most perfect words to describe it. Excellent play. It's not even just, both teams fighting the same matchup going tooth and nail. It is both teams fighting a matchup and then winning and losing in extreme peaks and valleys with those compositions. It's excellent to see teams perform like this no matter who you are. I think that no matter what team comes out victorious, they're going to both be walking away pretty comfortable here. Although, we'll be seeing here in just a few moments as King's Row is getting loaded in. These teams going to be hopping in for potentially our last map. If Gaia has their way, it will be anyway.
Certainly Gaia looking to secure their title here. The $600 prize for the first place finisher is on the line as well. So they are definitely incentivized to close things out here. But once again, it's going to be Andy's Daycare going back to the well once more, seeing what they can get out of this brawl composition, Zera going to be on the Sombra here. So no Symmetra in play, no real access easily necessarily to the back line of Gaia Esports, but still, this is anyone's ball game.
And we are going to be seeing Crown on that Pharah. I love seeing the Pharah on first point, Kings Row. You can use that hotel for so much horizontal cover. As now we see here, those rockets immediately going to try to get some early damage, some early shield break done.
Indeed, and just you know, some poke coming in for the time being. The concussive rocket could have forced them off of that high ground. It'll give Gaia kind of an easy place to try and stage some of their attack from. It lets Excellent rotate for free up to this high ground where they're just gonna have complete reign over this point. So many, you know, sight lines to have at their disposal, and you know, things are difficult here for Andy's Daycare. They're pushed back into the corner, gonna have to retreat into the hotel while some progress gets taken on the point. That's a tick going over, but now the re-engage coming through from the Reinhardt, but Gaia, they just kite it back so excellently.
Yeah, Gaia look like they're really having a great time playing this composition. It's kind of like a dance coming through from them. J-Rob gonna have that high noon on the line. Gonna be trying to zone somebody out, but again, just that feather away that comes through from Gaia.
No, indeed, and you know, you see this pull and tug from Andy's Daycare trying to get their enemies off balance. Haven will go down there in a little bit of an awkward spot on the point. The second tick nearly comes through there. There's the barrage from Crown, finds two, and with the nano in on to Fidelum, that is all she wrote for point A. Andy's Daycare falling down in this moment, and now, you know, Infected just having to turn tail, run, charge back to the rest of the team to you know, give up so much of this space. That initial choke point that is so difficult on Kings Row second is really going to be given up for free.
Yeah, I start to twist over in my mind what the response is or should be from Andy's Daycare. It feels like they need a little bit more hit scan and damage coming through. J-Rob doing excellently on those first few matches, but not really finding it this time around. A big EMP to start, though.
Yeah, that'll clip the wings off the Pharah immediately there. Crown forced to come down out of the skies, and without that DPS threat, there's not really anything that Gaia can do to kind of keep this fight going. They'll poke a little bit from the other side of the choke for the time being, but really they're just gonna wait for Crown to get back in here, who finds Zera going into the back line. The bomb is gonna be the engage here. Clear will be able to find one there. The opposite number as both divas drop out of the mech, and J-Rob finally pushing forward. The card is moving away from Andy's Daycare, but they've got the numbers advantage. The Deadeye will deal with Crown as well, and there's no res gonna be available there for Catatrix as the Mercy just hightails it out of the fight.
Despite the fact that they didn't get too much cart progress, I love what Gaia did there. They had Excellent in the hotel, and we see Andy's Daycare go for the same strategy. Push the support that doesn't have that mobility. They try to push Excellent, and that sleeps the Reinhardt. Excellent's able to get away. Infected can't group up with the rest of their team, stalling out for just a little bit. Some real openings being exposed there.
Ooh, and Andy beams down Haven on the high ground. Clear can't get up there to stop the Resurrect coming through, but still well done from the support for ADC. Is now Infected in a bit of an awkward spot here, having to retreat in towards the bookstore to recharge that shield a little bit. Haven putting a lot of pressure on the Reinhardt. There's the Dragons out, trying to deny some value coming out from the Amp Matrix, but Infected just pushes right past it, drops the Earth Shatter, and decimates Gaia.
And Crown looked like they were going with Catatrix for a wraparound rocket barrage. They didn't quite find it. They were setting up with 99% of that ultimate charge. I think they were expecting Haven to push the team back towards Defender spawn. Just did not go that way, and that's exactly what you should expect from ADC. They do not back off.
No, indeed, they have Infected as the spearhead on this. Reinhardt has been excellent all series long, has found tremendous value out of the Earth Shatters, even, you know, without a comp on the other side that really lends itself to that ultimate. There's the barrage, there's the nano, the bubble onto Crown just to ensure that the ultimate goes off unabated, and the damage too much to overcome there for Andy's Daycare. They will be forced back, but already this point B defense has been excellent. They've taken so much time off the clock.
Yeah, we said that they'd get point B, or they'd get second phase basically for free. That has not been the case. An excellent retake coming through from Andy's Daycare, and they're gonna have one more shot at it with EMP, with self-destruct. They coordinate those. They can catch a lot of people out from the side of Gaia. Really put the hurt on them.
Indeed, there's the EMP. It's going to connect onto Catatrix. The Mercy is in a very awkward position at this moment, and Crown, without that damage boost, cannot quite do enough damage to finish off any of the targets on the side of Andy's Daycare. So, despite the mines being dropped on the point, despite the progress that Gaia has made, they get forced back once again.
Yeah, and it's something that I feel like we're saying a lot here, Shy Guy, where the ultimates that Gaia is trying to place are actually too far behind the defensive team, where ADC is just getting too aggressive, pushing up too heavy, and because of that, we're not seeing the full effect, the full impact, unless we see those big ultimates like Crown, who has another rocket barrage.
Indeed, there's the Ant Matrix getting dropped down, and it's just gonna, again, clear Gaia off of the point pretty much completely here. I mean, Fidel on this Zarya trying to poke a little bit, stick their head around the corner and lose half your HP bar, but now this is gonna be it. This is final fight for this point as the Deadeye comes out from J-Rob. Hack in onto Crown there. Can they finish off the Pharah? The Nano Boost gonna have to be committed. There's the barrage. The defense matrix though from Clear is excellent. Absolutely pitch perfect from the D.Va. Buys the team so much space to work with, but Infected hit by that biotic grenade and taken out. Now an opportunity for Gaia to make some magic happen. Crown is out of the fight, but Haven is more than capable of picking up the slack. The Dragons find two, and Gaia will push forward.
Man, Zero really did all they could in that fight. They got the hack onto the Pharah, both preventing the rocket barrage and also revealing that they had it online. Excellent has to commit that nano boost onto the Pharah just for that to be successful. We are going to be seeing the swap now, not too surprising. We usually see a little bit more long range, either the Widow, Hanzo, or the Ashe rather. Crown's going to be picking the third of those options, and Zero starting off dead early on is an expensive loss.
Yeah, it gets caught out there in the backlines, but the Shatter connects there to help secure a couple of kills here for Andy's Daycare. Despite losing that opening pick there, they're willing to stick it out in the fight. They use some ultimates to secure it, and that's a big opportunity gone there for Gaia. They use the Graviton Surge in that instance and get absolutely nothing for it.
Yeah, but they're going to feel comfortable doing that, knowing that Fidelum's going to be switching back to the D.Va. This is going to be looking a little bit more traditional, at least from this tank line. Nano Boost coming, or excuse me, the amplification coming out to make this a little bit more difficult for the attackers.
Yeah, it just completely forces them into that area around the Mega Health Pack, and that's exactly where Infected wants to fight. And now, this is cheeky.
Oh, no.
On the final fight, they're going for this, and has to be wary. They cannot step too far forward, or they're going to get rushed on immediately. There's the speed boost. Here it comes the dive from the Brawl. Comp, and Excellent is out of it immediately, but the casualties might be too much here from the side of Andy's Daycare. They try to go for the cheeky sneak play, but it's going to backfire pretty tremendously here.
But if you're on the plus side, you take down Crown, your respawns are going to come in a little bit more rapidly. This is looking great with Zero taking down Fidelum and Earth Shatter to clear off mines as well.
And Astronex falls out off the back of that. There is the kills coming through for Andy's Daycare, and somehow, some way, they turned that fight on its head. It looked done for them in that instance. I thought we were going all the way towards the end of King's Row, but a brilliant recovery. Zira able to buy so much time on the Tracer, find a couple of kills there, and then the Earth Shatter once again from Infected helps secure this stop.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, it looked like the wagon wheels were shaking a little bit when we saw that extremely forward hold from ADC, but Andy's Daycare able to restabilize, grab the steering wheel, hold themselves together, and they just knew that they'd be able to take advantage of those respawns. We see a couple members go down early enough to where they're able to come back, use some of those big play ultimates. I'm looking at Infected clearing off the point, stunning everybody else out. But speaking of Infected, as we look ahead, looks like potentially a dive tank lineup coming from Andy's Daycare, although again, I don't put any stock in that until I see him roll out of that on the attacking team.
No, certainly. And the rest of their comp certainly points towards the rush once again, with the Symmetra and the McCree. But on the other side, a brand new look for Gaia when they need it most, when they have an opportunity to close out this series. They are going to be going for the rush comp of their own. Astronex on the Reinhardt for the first time here, and this is going to make for a very interesting situation. We have not seen this yet so far in either of these series these two teams have played, and it does complicate things for the side of Andy's Daycare. They get booped off the high ground as they try to go for that TP play, and now with the shield kind of getting broken for Infected, they just have to retreat into Hotel, but this is going to be really awkward. The pin on Astronex is beautiful.
Oh no!
But he gets the response. How does he stay alive in that instance and even manages to take down Infected? That was looking so good for Andy's Daycare, and it just falls to pieces.
Yeah, an excellent response and excellent awareness from Catatrix to know that teleporter's coming up to get ready to knock everybody off the high ground, then they can't contest us. Looks like Andy's Daycare might just start to push directly to point. No, they're actually going to wrap around, do a different type of push here as now they continue to contest this high ground. Nobody on point, though, but excellent dropping early.
Oh, indeed, but Infected goes down, and the Ant Matrix is standing here. The Shatter is beautiful from Astronex. He has been main tank diffing Infected so far in this head-to-head matchup, but the fight's not quite over here. Fidelum will be there for the cleanup alongside Haven, so Andy's Daycare gonna have to go back to the drawing board once more.
And Catatrix gonna have to go back to the spawn once more, not for their own life, but to get Astronex back into this fight as quickly as possible. Attackers do have that respawn advantage, but they're trying to minimize that difference as much as possible. The Maywall's gonna come up, try to mitigate the damage that's gonna be put onto those three members.
Oh, the pin is absolutely perfect. Astronex times it beautifully as the slam comes down from the Gravitic Flux. The Blizzard is committed there as well. Don't know that it was necessarily required to win that fight, but it will make sure that Andy's Daycare are sent back to the spawn once more. Luckily for them, these fights have all been very quick. There's still about 2 minutes left on the clock, and they have got ultimates galore.
They certainly do. Quite a few ultimates in pocket for Andy's Daycare. What do they opt into here? There's no Diva to eat that Blizzard. It will be on the Sigma. The Maywall tries to catch the Blizzard, but does not. A great start.
Indeed, but no one actually gets caught by it, so no kills secured in that situation. Both sound barriers committed as these two teams brawling inside the hotel. Infected will be able to take down Astronex and push forward aggressively in that situation. Zira on the Doomfist finds a pick onto Excellent, and now they've got the spawn advantage. They've got the numbers on the point, and Andy's Daycare are looking like they should be able to take this fight.
Yeah, especially as now the respawns are going to start to come through. I say that, but Haven coming in big!
4 kills for the Hanzo. Saved that fight. It was done. It was over. Andy's Daycare come away with no progress, no ticks. In less than a minute on the clock, this is starting to look dire. This is starting to look like the end for them, possibly. They've got to dig deep in this moment. J-Rob over towards the Hanzo of his own. He's seen what Haven has gotten done with it, but can he match that effort?
As many times as we've seen Andy get some value with these walls, this one needs to be big as well. Does not look to be the case, as now these teams trying to lean in. Only the first tick achieved for Andy's Daycare. They still have a task ahead of them.
Okay, both Shatters go out to no avail there, but it's going to be the Blizzard eaten up clear. Keeps his team in this fight, and Zira able to get in the back line, taking down Excellent, goes up with the Meteor Strike. Now things once again starting to turn in the favor of Andy's Daycare. Haven is dealt with this time around, and they will be able to claim point A, but it comes in overtime, which means they are going to need one heck of a push here.
You know what this is, Shy Guy? This is us talking up Crown too much. Haven gets jealous and decides to just put a 4K on the map. No ability, like just hands free. Excellent look coming through, but eventually all good things will come to an end. Now it's going to be up to Andy's Daycare to try to push through that streets phase, and they need to do it quickly because they don't have as much time as their opponents were given.
No, definitely not, but this is still very doable for Andy's Daycare in this situation. They're going to be, you know, without a ton of ultimates going into this. They'll have that sound barrier that can respond if a Gravitic Flux comes out from Fidelum, but they are looking for an opportunity for Zero to get in there with the rocket punches. Fine, an opening pick, maybe get an arrow out from J-Rob, but now just a lot of ground being given here by Gaia to the point that if they lose this fight, they're not going to get another on street space.
Yeah, and that's only given Clear enough time to get that Diva Bomb. Dragons are going to be going out. A lot of damage being committed through this fight.
Yeah, and everyone had to run from the Diva Bomb, but they run right into the Dragons, and now that's a couple kills for Andy's Daycare on the board. Zero finds another one as well, and Gaia, it was looking so good for you on point A. You nearly had the full hold, but now Andy's Daycare have answered back in a big way. They will take point B. They get some more time on the clock, and now it all comes down to how far can they push here on the final section of Kings Row.
Wow, we are really seeing Kings Row go the distance. Hanzo versus Hanzo. Haven comes out the victor. That sets up Gaia in a great way for this defense fight.
And Andy's Daycare try to retreat, but the May wall completely blocks off any way out for them. Infected wants to have that shatter back for sure, throws it out in desperation, but will fall in the end. So a tool gone there for Andy's Daycare, but still 2 minutes on the clock to get this payload just around that first corner.
There are going to still be a few ultimates on the board. We're going to be seeing them start off clear once again. Excellent on these reads.
Yeah, but Astronex has gotten the opening pick there, and now the Earth Shatter drops as well. Clear gets another ultimate gone, but it's not going to mean much in the grand scheme of things for this fight. Excellent play from the Diva on the side of Andy's Daycare, but for now, they are just going to have to reset.
Man, if you're Clear, you wish you got ultimate percentage for eating other ultimates, man. You'd be charged up, tanked, ready with 2 self-destructs in pocket, but not going to quite be the case. As we look ahead, excellent. Only one to match Andy with an ultimate on the board. We'll see if these Baptiste ultimates are going to make the difference here. The first one goes out.
Oh, the Fire Strike nearly connects J-Rob, able to get around the corner to safety, though. And now an Ant Matrix to answer that wall is just going to get melted immediately, and so does the mech of Fidelum. That's the advantage that Andy's Daycare were looking for, but Infected steps a little bit too far forward. The May is still on the point to keep things from moving forward, and without their Reinhardt, Andy's Daycare, they're struggling to stick around in this fight. They're going to have one last opportunity to make some magic happen here, but that was not what they were looking for after getting the opening pick.
I think if you're Andy's Daycare, you want to take an honest fight here. Let this fight go a little bit along. Use that sound barrier. Give yourself that revitalization and hopefully get into it before those ultimates come online. That's questionable considering how close Gaia is to their ultimates. The Dragons are going to be going out to start, though.
Oh, and that's a sound barrier forced out. They can't afford to let the go.
Okay.
That's why Clear needs to stay in the fight. Takes another Blizzard away from Crown. This is going down to the wire. But gets frozen up, gets slammed to the ground, and now Andy's Daycare, they've done it. They are gonna force us to
Wow, amazing play coming in from Andy's Daycare. I don't know if you caught it in there, Shy Guy, but a Diva got booped off the map. Hugh and Lover able to get the boop after the jet boosters were used, but amazing. These teams could not be more well matched right now. I thought things were looking great for Gaia, especially on this first point. We're about to, I guess, recap that. Hanzo absolutely popping off with 4 kills in a row. That was nasty. But either way,
that should be illegal. That's not okay. You cannot do that, Haven. Absolutely disgusting stuff, but it is not quite enough to lift Gaia Esports. brought out the rush comp. We've never seen that from them before, and they go toe to toe with Andy's Daycare. They nearly pull it off, but no, it's gonna be one more map to decide it all here.
Yeah, and you know we did the first one of these. We did the first game of the Overwatch All Stars Brawl, and Shy Guy, we're doing the last one, and I can't think of any better way to come out of hibernation for our grand finals than to go 8 maps of a best of 7 series. This is just way too wild.
Yeah, this is absolutely unreal. I never expected this. At any point in this series, I never expected this. I mean, there were so many times I thought it was going to go one way or the other, but instead we're going the distance, and it's going to be Ilios to decide it all here. A final control map to give us a champion in the Overwatch All-Star Brawl, and this is going to be incredibly tense.
I already have the hair on the back of my neck standing at full attention here, Shy Guy. I am ready to go for these two teams, Andy's Daycare versus Gaia. I love talking about control maps as well, because with Ilios, with Lijiang Tower, with a couple of these different maps, you can have so many different play styles contained within just one map itself. Of course, well, very crowd control based. You can get dropped into the middle of the well. You can have the Pharahs up in the sky, having to be aware of their concussive blasts. Ruins, very long sight lines, so we might see those snipers, those Ashes, those Hanzos come through. Usually you see the hit scans rather, but and then finally Lighthouse is a little bit more of that medium style, just right up onto point. You're overlooking a giant cliffside, but it doesn't come into effect too much. Still the opportunity to play the Wrecking Ball there. Huge opportunity for the Reinhardt to come through, swing big. I'm excited for both of these teams as we look towards Ilios. I just, I don't know what else to say.
And I don't know how this is gonna go. I have no feel for what to expect at this point, because it's just been these two teams trading haymakers all night long, and neither of them have quite been able to deal the knockout blow just yet. But someone is going to emerge from this next map as our champion, and it has been just an absolute thrill from start to finish. I've loved every second of it, and we've got one last chance to watch these two teams go at it. It's we're lucky in this moment, Waltham, to be able to witness this.
We certainly are. Luck has everything to do with it on our end, and nothing to do with it when you look at these teams. They are sweating buckets, I'm sure. I'm sure there's some members who have had to have a change of shirt or two just because of how sweaty these games are getting. But as we look ahead, one kind of the theme that we've been talking about here, Shy Guy, that in hindsight has been kind of irrelevant, is who's been picking the map, right? That doesn't really come into effect here. Ilios, not even in the map pool, so nothing, not necessarily a map these teams could have picked, not a map we can necessarily get a read on. Were they favorable? Were they unfavorable? It's going to be what I would consider as true to a neutral in terms of practice and expectations from these teams. But overall, very excited, very ready to see these teams go knuckle to knuckle here on Ilios.
Certainly, and this is going to be really interesting, because this is the kind of thing where I can very easily see, depending on kind of the sub maps that we wind up going to. I think you've got certain ones that are going to favor one team or other. I think a map like Ruins, it really plays into what Gaia likes to do with spreading things out. You could say that Lighthouse might be kind of in that same bucket as well, but time and time again, Andy's Daycare have shown us throughout this series that they don't necessarily need a map that favors their style to come out on top. They are more than capable of taking away a situation that doesn't necessarily favor them, but it's just going to have to be the time for both of these teams to dig deep to find that last little reserve of energy at the end of an incredibly long and drawn out series, and I'm so excited to see how this plays out.
Absolutely. And while we do have a minute, folks, this is the absolute last chance to vote for your MVP picks, your viewers' choice. Let the teams know who you think is popping off. As well, if you have a spare moment, we'd love to have you on our socials, the Twitter, the Twitches, which you're ideally on right now, the Discord as well. Feel free to join. We'd love having you as a community. We love seeing these tournaments happen, and that happens with views and engagement from viewers such as yourself. So for all of you tuning in, thank you very much. The teams are going to be ready here in just a moment, Shy Guy. We're about to head to the 11th hour.
My God, and it could not be closer. It really couldn't. I mean, without some kind of tie on another map throughout this series, it's really impossible to see how these two teams could be more evenly matched throughout a best of 7 series. It's been just absolutely incredible to watch, and we've got one last chance for both these teams to prove themselves, to claim the title here, to secure themselves that $600 grand prize, and along with it, free entry into the very next All-Star Brawl whenever that might be coming up in the future. But it's really been all on the line for both of these teams. They have put everything of themselves into this series, and they have delivered one of my fondest memories in Overwatch. This is one I will not forget for such a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be spreading rumors. I hear Haven cried on Blizzard World. Zera lost a toe on Rialto somewhere. I don't know. It's getting wild, folks. It's getting mad nasty between these two teams. But Ilios getting very ready to top off here in just a moment. So, Shy Guy, I'm going to put both of us on the immense spot here. Who do we think?
You're just going to spring that on me.
I'm going to spring it on both of us, yeah.
Oh, I'm going with Gaia. I think this map is probably a little bit more favored to their style of play, but yeah, you could ask me again in like 10 seconds and I would flip.
That's an absolutely fair answer. I do think you can't count out Andy's Daycare in any way, shape, or form. It's gonna be great here. I think I would tend to lean with Gaia, but that's just because I'm a numbers man and they won the last matchup. But that hasn't really seemed relevant this time around. It's been very even on both sides of the field.
This has just been a completely different situation that both these teams have found themselves in. We're seeing some love in the chat from both these teams. They have competed their hearts out here tonight, and you can feel the mutual respect going on in this moment. Crown back onto the Pharah once more, absolutely decimated Andy's Daycare on Hanamura. We'll see if they can do it one more time here as we start things off on well. The rotations coming out from Andy's Daycare, but Jerome takes a rocket to the face. That is not the start that they were looking for as they rotate around the point. Now they're stuck in a really awkward spot. They are in a very small room. They're pushing out onto the point for the time being, but they're down a member. Andy now falling to Crown as well, and no one has been able to put any pressure onto this Pharah so far.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of what you expect here. We were talking about the concussiveness of this map. It can be so impactful. Trades going back and forth, but with first cap going over to the side of Gaia, getting early percentage, building that up as well. Look at Crown's ult percentage, almost at full.
Indeed, now has the barrage. Will get taken out by Clear, isolated from the Mercy there for a little bit, so an opportunity possibly for Andy's Daycare to make something happen, but Catatrix there with the res as the rest of the team comes in with the support, and now the barrage is unleashed. Doesn't really find much, gets some damage down, but J-Rob deals with the Pharah, and the flip comes through for Andy's Daycare, so after an ominous start, they do manage to swing things back in their favor.
Yeah, perhaps Gaia looking to not even want to give up that point. They know it means that they might have to push in a little bit more aggressively onto this team that does so well when you're forced to run into them. Not going to quite be the case here, though, as we see Crown still taking to the sky, doing a lot of that damage. Mines in pocket for the side of Astronex means that they are going to be able to put the attacking, or rather the defending side of Andy's Daycare in a more uncomfortable position, although those mines seem a bit misplaced.
Indeed, Andy's Daycare has already just vacated that area completely, and now Haven goes down to the pulse bomb. Nice stick there coming in from Zero, but no way to really stop the res from coming through. There's the bomb in over the top, and that's going to mean Crown having some trouble getting a lot done with this nano boost that he has received. Does find one kill, but Fidelum down into the pit after using that self-destruct is a big mistake there from the side of Gaia, and they're being forced to back off here as Zero even finds the late kill on Astronex.
Actually, I believe Fidelum got taken down by the self-destruct from Clear, got ejected from Mech, and then thrown off the map. Either way, gonna be an unfortunate loss for the side of Gaia. Crowd, however, almost ready with another rocket barrage. Gonna be looking to keep a tighter eye on J-Rob this time around. J-Rob just gonna be throwing the Heine out, not allowing Crown to even go for it.
Certainly the res will be there, so I mean, it just buys some time for Andy's Daycare as the rest of Gaia get in position to try and make some kind of a dive happen. Astronex looking to find the opportunity to slam Crown, shut down by the defense matrix there. Can't get anything done with the barrage in that instance, and no res thanks to that early Deadeye. There's the shatter out from Infected, but dives into the backline, takes out Haven, and that is the damage done here for the side of Andy's Daycare. They're finding all of the picks. It's 99%, and now the Boop barely able to get back on the point is Catatrix, but Astronex taken out by J-Rob as well. And Andy's Daycare, one more point is all it takes, and they will have done the impossible. They will have upset Gaia Esports in this grand final.
Wow, one more point separates them from victory, and I wanna bring a point of decorum up here, Shy Guy. All right, I saw J-Rob throw down that spray. I saw it. I saw you hit the flashbang. I think it was a fan the hammer onto Catatrix, and then you hit the spray. My friend, come on. We're running a classy establishment here, my friend. But you keep performing like that, I guess you can play. You can BM however you want. Now, as we look ahead, though, might be seeing a change up of composition heading into Ruins. This is what we were talking about. Might be a little bit more favorable towards Gaia.
Yeah, absolutely. Infected onto the Winston here. They're going for the dive comp. They got Andy on the Moira as well. So very mobile is this comp coming out from Andy's Daycare, and we'll see what kind of response Gaia have for us in this situation. What targets might they be able to isolate and put in the damage with those Discord orbs? Can they burn down someone like Infected? He's got it on him so far. The point about to unlock as the dive comes in from Andy's Daycare. Diving deep into the backline are both of the tanks. They're just creating space for their DPS to operate in, and that's given them the early capture on this point.
And you can't forget, though, that retakes very possible here. One player gets isolated, and all of a sudden they are a chew toy for the opposing team. Just like the supports, it hasn't ended. Catatrix and Excellent once again.
Yeah, it's just overwhelming there. As soon as Excellent is off of the high ground perch that he had early in that fight, becomes such a juicy target, and Andy's Daycare, they collapse in on towards the members of Gaia, who now have to fight their way back into this. They've lost the first fight. They are behind when it comes to some of these early ultimates. You know, J-Rob with that pulse bomb nearly ready, does not find anything for it, but still they're just avoiding taking a clean fight here for the time being. But Excellent takes the head off of Andy right there with the volley of orbs, and now an opportunity for Gaia to push forward. A lot of the healing gone for Andy's Daycare. They don't have the sustain to stick around in this fight, and Crown picks up 3 for his troubles.
Yeah, a good opportunity coming in here from Gaia. They finally get the flip going over in their favor, and they're even buying quite a bit of time. Clear has to throw themselves off the map, and now a huge amount of ultimates in pocket for what's looking like both these teams. EMP, Coalescence, Sound Barrier, Primal, all within grasping range for the side of ADC. Now, as we look ahead, that point progress still keeps ticking up. The next attack is going to be essential for Andy's.
We got EMPs on both sides. Who's going to be the first to go for it here. It looks like Crown being forced to translocate out here, so Zira has an opportunity to try and find this, but Crown gets taken out of their EMP. The other side, Zira gets the better of that duel, but still goes down to the mines, and Infected falls as well. So despite the really awkward engage, it's Gaia that come out on top.
Yeah, amazing. Both Sombras only using those EMPs. Between the two EMPs, only one person gets hacked, and it's the other Sombra. So, a wild interaction there that I'm sure both Sombras will be wanting their EMPs back, but either way, those usage of ultimates going to be looking very good for this Andy's Daycare team that's now just pushing ahead.
Yeah, they take that sound barrier and they just press forward. There's nothing to hold them back at that moment. Not enough damage in the world to stop them from surging forward. And now Fidelum is going to buy a little bit more time here by staggering in onto the point, but cleared off at 79%. This is as close as it could possibly be, coming down to the wire here. It's going to be a rally for Catatrix in this next fight to let them engage pretty aggressively.
As we look ahead, the scoreline's just about evened up, but ADC going to be in the more comfortable position of having that one round already won. Dive goes in. It's going to be the rally to respond from Catatrix.
Oh, but Astronex gets hacked up and taken down. It's going to be a trade there onto Heal and Lover, so an opportunity here still for Gaia to make something happen, but they lose their Tracer. They lose a tremendous amount of their damage they had available, and now Zero drops the EMP. No kills immediately until Catatrix falls, and now it's 99%. This might just be it. Andy's Daycare, they have the numbers, they have the bodies on the point. It's the mines coming out from Astronex, but the coalescence is here from Andy, putting out the damage, keeping everybody topped up, and there is the bomb on the point as well. This might just seal the deal. The hack in onto Hewn Lover onto Catatrix will make sure the Lucio can do nothing about it. Andy's Daycare, they secure the victory. It goes to map 8, but they are your All-Star Brawl champions.
Wow, a fantastic performance from Andy's Daycare, looking extremely strong on Ilios. Not to take anything by any means away from their opposition, but just looking like fiends. I thought we were seeing them at, a particularly strong moment during their rush, but their dive looked excellent on these ruins as well. I have no complaints coming in from Andy's Daycare.
Yeah, they brought out a brand new look there on the final point of this series, and to an extent it did throw Gaia for a loop a little bit there. I mean, it's not to say that that's like the reason necessarily that Andy's Daycare was able to win because of the comp. They executed it incredibly well, but to show that kind of versatility in such a huge moment, like you cannot afford to go to something that you're not confident in right there, and you got to take your hat off to them.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta love to see that. And overall, man, I don't think, Shy Guy, we could have asked for a better finals. I've said it time over and time over and time again, but I stand by it. This is one of the best grand finals I've had in the Overwatch All-Stars Brawl. I have been so happy to be here and be a part of it.
Yeah, it's been great to be with you here tonight, Waltham. It's been great to have all the support from the community coming out in such a big moment for this tournament. And Andy's Daycare, just such an incredible showing from them. You got to give a lot of props to Gaia too as well. At moments in this series, it looked like they were almost ready to kind of roll over and just let this one slide out of their grasp, but they kept it close at every moment. They were not willing to give this one up without a fight, but eventually Andy's Daycare overcome. They adapt throughout the series, and they just play some absolutely incredible Overwatch.
Yeah, absolutely incredible Overwatch is certainly the way to define it. 2 hours and 40 minutes in, Shy Guy, we are finally ready to put a bow on this, but an excellent performance, folks, and I do want to take the opportunity to remind you that if you have not done so, vote for your MVPs in the chat. Let us know who you think popped off the most, and we will announce it during our interview with Andy's Daycare, which will be coming up here in just a moment. But Shy Guy, before we get to that, any final thoughts?
Really, looking towards that MVP poll specifically, there's a lot of times you like come out of a series and there's a really clear kind of front runner for that. This one, I find it almost impossible to make this kind of call. I am going to kind of throw my weight a little bit behind Clear here, who was on that diva throughout the series, especially on Kings Row, the map that they had to win to avoid losing this series, the map that they needed to win to force us to map 8. The ultimate eats were just absolutely phenomenal, and this was a series that is going to be one that I don't think I will ever forget.
I don't think it's going to be leaving my memory banks anytime soon either. But folks, we've kept you waiting long enough. We are here. We are in chat with, from what I understand, the entirety of the Andy's Daycare team. So Andy's Daycare team, I can't imagine any way to do this in any organized fashion. So hello, welcome, and congratulations to every single one of you.
Thank you.
Good for Waltham.
No, Sir Waltham. No. Sir Waltham, you're the GOAT, bro. I don't think I've ever lost a match that you've casted.
That's bad.
Well, I think Shy Guy was a little bit of quite a bit of help here. If I'm being
Shy Guy, you are the
sincere
GOAT as well.
Shy Guy is the go-to.
Both are
Shy Guy,
easily the
anybody
goat.
tell you differently? Let me know. Okay.
We'll do.
This is amazing.
It was an amazing game to witness, folks. Let me tell you. I want to ask, kind of now that we're coming off the back end of it, did fatigue play at all a factor in here? I mentioned it earlier. 2 hours and 40 minutes of this matchup. Are you guys feeling the energy levels at all?
I've got Team 4 of 14-year-olds. I don't think it matters. Like,
Yeah.
we're so young, it doesn't matter.
Infected here was infected, screaming his damn ass off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, I'm sorry. Guys, sorry. That might sound.
Sorry, guys, I pinned it to 6. I'm sorry.
Shut
Sorry,
up.
guys.
I think,
To a poll
I
and
think-
fall off the map. My bad.
I think the only map where we were feeling the fatigue, at least personally for me, was Blizzard World, and then after we lost, it was kind of a wake-up call to keep going.
Every map of Blizzard World I've had to play in this damn tourney, I just end my brains out. Like I
just want to say, to everyone watching, if you play 8 maps against Sombra, Tracer, Ball, it fucks you up. Oh, sorry.
It does something to you as a man. You're a changed person after that.
Like, I'm probably just gonna go take a shower after this and just like sit in silence, just like, what the hell just happened?
I also have like my entire like flipping Hispanic bloodline in my house coming over, bro, and I had to play this match.
Yeah, he's got that family energy going on right now in the other room.
Oh.
Most of them are on the Wi-Fi right now, so he's already at a crutch. Like,
Honestly, I can't imagine how mad Andy is just getting like slammed and just like what was it? Primary fired by Farah every fight. That's so tilting.
yeah, if there's one person I need to like definitely highlight, it's definitely Andy. I mean, his name's in the like team name and everything like that, but for real, if it wasn't for him, like I don't know how some of these fights would have played out.
I agree.
Yeah, that's something we mentioned. Yeah, the big old ultimates that were coming through, the big garage doors, the amplification matrices from Andy. And you mentioned the Farah. What was the mindset when you saw that Gaia was pulling out the Farah, getting a little bit of that aerial damage coming through? How did y'all kind of cope with that most effectively?
Right.
The second that we saw they were on Farah, we just knew we had to do our rotations good, and obviously sometimes we didn't, and that's how they like won a lot of fights. But other times, like when we did it well, I was actually able to pick off their pharmacy like solo a bunch of times. I don't know what they were doing, but
I think it was just me hitting every damn shot.
oh
That might be true. No, like honestly, I'm surprised that we did so well on the rush comp because like I always knew we were a good rush team, but we didn't have a lot of like time to practice it
Yeah,
against all
no,
comp.
literally, my Sim and my Sombra are just not it, man. I play Tracer, I play Doom, and that's like
You play Tracer, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's just it. Okay.
Yeah.
Stick
You're,
to
you're
that.
like the
Listen, I know how to
rocket. You're
play
like the
those
rocket of
characters.
tier 3. You're the rocket of tier
let's
3.
see. So we had our match against Ball Mafia on Tuesday where we only played
Ball
Ball.
Mafia?
Hog Mafia.
Hog- Yeah, sorry.
What's the difference? They're a ball team.
Oh, yeah, it felt like Ball Mafia. Anyways, we had like 2 or 3 scrims after that, and we played Ball. So then we were just like, wait, why are we trying to play Ball? The guy's good at Ball. Let's just play Brawl and win. So that was like
Yeah.
a few
That was a
hours
big
before.
realization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the most part, like we took inspiration. Well, me personally as a coach, I took inspiration from like how Shock approached, or like even how Atlanta approached, like going against like really good ball teams in OWL recently. Like if you can't beat them on their mirror, just pull out something else that you're really good at. And obviously, I've got some of the best brawl players in Tier 3 on my team, so shout out to Atlanta Reign for being a team that inspires us.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure. I mean, this was was like absolutely incredible to watch from start to finish. You know, J-Rub, you like came in after map number 1 on this series where, like, frankly, let's be real, y'all just got blasted on Gibraltar. So like
Jesus.
what is like the mindset when you come into a situation like that, when like things have
No comment.
not started off really well?
When I come in, the thought process in my head, I'm like, I'm just gonna carry, cause I'm the best
Oh
ever do
my
it.
god.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the thought
yeah.
process was in her head too much. You got King.
And
caught
then
out.
I see infected
Soccer cap.
pinning into 6,
Soccer cap.
falling off the map 3 times in one damn round, and I'm like,
Okay.
maybe we lose.
Yeah, no. In all seriousness, I don't think we're like upset at all that we lost first map, because we have only scrimmed Gibraltar 1 time ever, and we had no idea what we were gonna play going into it. So we kind of just like gave it as their map pick.
Yeah.
Like basically that's it. Nothing we can do about it. Fucking
It was
go
fake
next.
confidence. We
Alright,
get
like,
their
what do you-
hopes up and then we absolutely destroy them after.
The only time I
Wow.
remember playing Gibraltar was literally our warm-up scrim before the grand finals. Like, I just don't remember playing that damn map.
Yeah,
Like, it's
we,
just-
I
Yeah,
don't
if
think
anything,
We're
just
playing
take
a
it
brand
as
new comp.
like, just take it as them being in the winners bracket, getting like the map. That was pretty much what it was. We were just like, all right, that's fine. We didn't really expect to win that map. Just go next map.
So it should have definitely been a 4-2, but we trolled Volskaya. That's all.
it should have been 4-0 if we were just better.
Infected troll Volskaya.
I did not troll Volskaya. If anything, I trolled Kings, but then Clear clutched.
Clear did not clutch. Clear is dog shit.
And you know that? Yeah, that's speaking facts right now. Clear is
He
terrible.
didn't need 3 blizzards
Clear
in
is terrible. Clear is terrible.
1 minute.
Hey,
As you can
guys.
see, we do run a daycare here, so
Yeah.
We gotta
well,
name change this team. It's so bad.
Before things get too wild here, folks, I do want to announce the MVP from the audience. So this is the audience, everybody deciding who they liked out there the most, and it brings me a little bit of happiness to announce that Andy's going to be the MVP for tonight. So Andy,
Let's
big
go!
congratulations.
Good shit, Andy.
Dude got blasted the entire match.
Hell
like,
no.
He just died.
he got
His role was
blasted the
dying.
entire time.
Andy, show me your recent DMs on Discord. There's at least 50 people you DM'd going. Vote MVP. Cause ain't no way you got that shit over Clear.
Nah, honestly, if I wouldn't give it to myself, I probably would give it to Andy. So
Yeah, I think Clear and Andy are the 2 MVPs of this match.
yeah.
I think Graham is like #1 endless, just horrible. They
Oh,
deserve
sure.
to win. And then there comes Infected.
What?
Huh?
in
Dude,
all
I
seriousness,
literally-
like all of my players here, like throughout like our run, whether it was like upper bracket or even like our 1 match in losers bracket, like everyone clutched up at least like 1 series. Like someone had to step up. Like the fact that Zero was robbed of MVP last match, ugh.
No, that was well deserved. Actually, that was really well
Infected,
deserved.
you are a bum.
Well, folks, before we let you go, I do like to give the opportunity for some shout-outs, but there's like 13 people in this chat right now, so I can't give everybody the opportunity, so I'll just say J Venom for your team. Is there anybody you guys would like to shout out, aside from the Atlanta Reign, of course?
Twitter.com/JRobW_.
I
Drop me a big follow, baby.
Hang on. He said your coach. Calm down, children.
personally want to shout.
No, for the most part, like I would like to just shout out like some of our former teammates and of course the rest of the staff that works with us. Debit, our manager, like even though we joke with Debit like on getting us not the best scripts and maybe not finding us ringers on time, but for the most part, if it wasn't for the people that were actually like backing us up, getting us the blocks, we wouldn't have been able to grind out this hard. And
I
also,
think you're more of a manager than Debit is, so.
yeah, I managed the whole daycare, but I did say in the pre-interview for our first map that I was gonna save my plugs and everything until after we won, and guess what? We won. So follow at HelloJVenom at Twitter.com. You know what it is.
Your brothers, hello?
One last
Well-
shout out our head coach Preston Hill.
Shout out
He is
Preston
not
Hill.
your head
I want to
coach.
give another shout out.
I am not getting robbed.
I want to give another shout out. Shout out our assistant coach Vega.
Shout out Vegas. Shout out Pandora. Shout out Apricot. I know you're watching right now. Let's go.
Shout out oops, Pickled Nun Nut.
Shout out that AFK dude.
What's a COO? Sound like
Shout
a
out
co-
Onda from
owner?
Hog Mafia for encouraging Infected to not be so bad. Thank
Well,
you, Onda.
yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Star Esports, for hosting this again.
yeah.
I'm glad
It was a lot
that
of
Star
fun.
is
Yeah.
Last of all, last but not least, Dylan.
Shout out to Dylan.
Dylan is the good.
I think we can end
Alright.
it on that note.
It's
well.
underscore Dylan on Twitter. Upcoming go.
Well, Andy's Daycare, the whole team, thank you guys very much for not only coming on and asking or answering a few questions from us, but also just putting on a damn good show. This was, I've said it before, but I'll say it in front of you guys. This was one of the best grand finals I've ever casted in the Overwatch All-Stars Brawl, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next monthly Brawl here at Overwatch All-Stars.
Thank you.
Fortunately, we're kicking Andy, so that might not happen. But,
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
okay,
gone
well.
last-
Understandable.
Yeah.
All joking aside, thanks for having us.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of fun to play.
GG's.
Anytime, boys. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Alright, we can
Or
leave
do we
now,
just-
guys.
Alright,
we
I'm
should
out.
Yeah,
leave.
just bounce.
Alright,
leave.
peace out.
All right, welcome. I know they're probably about to like crash from the adrenaline rush. I think I am in a very similar situation. So let's wrap this up and say goodbye.
yes.
It's been an incredible night here at the All-Star Brawl. Thank you to literally everyone who tuned in at any point tonight. All of this is for you guys, for the community as a whole. We love Tier 3 Overwatch here. We absolutely adored doing this, and this was one of the best times that I have ever had casting this game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a ball. One of the best times I've also had casting this game. Look forward to seeing these teams as we move ahead. But folks, we hope to see you next time. Make sure if you're not already, follow us on our socials, the Discord, the Twitter, the Twitch, all that good stuff. Brawl. But until then, folks, we hope you take care and stay safe, everyone.